Good morning. Welcome in to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Whoa.
Wow.
Go ahead. I'll give you a mulligan. Go ahead.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You want me to? Hey, good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're live from the Pillar Exterior Studio, brought to you by Centris Federal Credit Union.
There we go.
And it's very, very good morning. And are you okay?
I think I'm good now. Maybe. We'll see.
Man, that was hurting me.
Yeah, we're struggling. The voice is on the struggle bus a little bit today.
You know what I think? I think it was from
You
being
seem very hurt.
Yeah, I think it was from being such an idiot yesterday.
No, I stand by those takes.
They were hot. Jokers were scorching hot takes. I don't even know. I didn't. At one point, I thought you were just trolling because I'm like, there's no way nobody's that dumb.
I am that dumb.
But I mean,
I certainly could be.
I do think it's very, very interesting that you make fun. I'm the guy that gravitates towards people that don't particularly treat me well because I'm always looking for the good piece of cheese.
Yep.
But your friends, and I use that loosely in air quotes, both took turns hammering you yesterday unsolicited.
Yeah, no, they like doing that.
No, it was weird. Jacob just fires out of nowhere. I was in tears because I think he must just go through and catch up on the show.
He does, yeah. Every time we get a text from him, it's because he's catching up on the show.
And I love the way that he hits bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
It leaves.
I feel like he takes notes.
Have you not seen his binders?
No, I have.
It's incredible.
I just never thought that he would take notes on the show.
It's incredible.
But it would make sense if he did.
Yeah, because he doesn't. You could just. That's a guy that does not enjoy making mistakes.
No.
So he's gonna cover his bases. Which is fine.
I think I figured out that's part of the disconnect there is I'm dramatically more comfortable making mistakes.
Well, how come you don't ever own them?
I do sometimes, but I don't always think I'm wrong.
But I mean, D. Marinas was hilarious.
Oh, D. Marinas hammers me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I enjoy that in between.
That's all right. I got a text from Alex in that group chat yesterday morning that he was.
Oh, how's he been?
He's doing good.
Is he?
He was riding with me.
Is he still funny?
Oh, always.
So he's got to be pretty. Is he excited for the baseball season?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. We should have him on. When
I've watched. Exciting. Yeah, let's do that because we're going to talk to Benny Mac. Do we get B Mac tomorrow? B, not known as Bernie.
I have not heard from him.
Well, he might be traveling. I mean, he does some big time stuff for Huddle sometimes.
All right. Well, Benny, we need you to stay on it, buddy.
He babysits all those elephant accounts that he has. All right. I'll
Elephants or whales?
What's the difference?
Well, one lives in the ocean.
Okay. It's fine.
Both mammals, though, so that's cool.
I got it for you, Damon. So that's what we're on today.
Yeah, that's what we're on today.
Oh, Alex just texted me. What does Alex have to say?
So I was watching a lot of the preseason interviews, and they had crammed a microphone in front of my man, Mr. Sailors.
Oh yeah,
he looks like $1 million. I told his dad
Noah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of his dad. He must have some. His dad was a meathead too, and he just was commenting on the season and the differences with the staff, and this is that odd year where you have
the overlap,
the coach in waiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to sanitize what Alex said for air,
and so this is going to be a really interesting season. But I have an affinity for Mr. Sailor, so that was he looked fantastic.
Alex said this is a paraphrase because I can't repeat what he said.
Yeah, he likes expletives, right?
He does, yeah.
Okay.
Even more than I do.
Okay.
He's probably closer to Sauter in terms of like level of expletive use. But he goes, I'm very excited to see how this coaching situation plays out.
Yeah.
That's the sanitized version.
Yeah.
But he kind of lives for the chaos too.
Does he?
Yeah, so he enjoys that.
And we get his. Well, actually, he's mine first because I've known the family since he was a kiddo. But we get his Mr. Tuesday night in Lincoln.
Who's
with
that?
Alixo.
Oh yeah.
So we swapped.
Yeah. That'll be good.
Yeah. Well, he could take turns helping Nebraska instead of drilling them during midweek games. It's like, if you ever remember a time where you couldn't beat me, so I'm going to join you? Does it usually go the other way?
Yeah. Yep. That usually does go the other way.
Yeah.
That's all right though.
So he'll be a plug and play guy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm excited to talk to Benny Mac. I'm excited. We'll talk to Alex at some point about Creighton baseball.
Nebraska actually has some good problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they return everybody, and
Like 99 problems.
and some extras.
More money, more problems.
Yeah, like they've got some guys they got to find some at bats for. And
That's a good problem to have.
our favorite friend's nephew coming off the
Verse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's pretty happy. He just got another. We just were talking about Max a couple of days ago. And he may have to find a place, and we'll see what happens with Silva. They got some. I'm excited.
That's good.
And they have a brutal schedule, so I'm even more excited.
Listen, I love a good non-con.
And B-Mac can get us our NBA fix. He can.
I have a pretty hot NBA take.
He has some pretty hot Chiefs takes too.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. He's a realist though.
Yeah.
Let me put it to you.
Unlike
like
some
this.
of our other Chiefs fans.
No, let me put it to you like this. He can be out of pocket in the moment, but he'll come back. We'll get him back.
I feel like that's what I'm like.
No.
No?
This is so. I'm gonna tell you how today's not gonna go.
I just stay out of pocket.
Yeah, today is not gonna be a day where we find ways. You cannot give yourself flowers. We're not gonna do that. You're gonna have to own your muckety muck. We're not. No, we're not. There's no soft landings, and you can't roll yourself a mulligan card either. Somebody else has to give it to you.
No, I'm fine. I don't need a mulligan.
Okay.
I'm good.
You gotta own your mess.
Listen, it's only a mess to the people on the outside that don't know what's going on.
You got it, NBA. No, we there's 2K in the stream every day. I mean, we know what's going on.
Some of those people are riding with me though. Some of them.
Unfortunately. Which is kind of weird. I think it's more like charity. We have a very giving. It is Giving Wednesday. I think we have a very giving,
like a charitable audience.
Yes.
I think some people just are able to see they're able to see through the chaos and be like, oh, there it is.
Is that what
We
it is?
see that, yeah.
I see what you're trying to do. We just said we're not going to do that.
It's like a beautiful mind.
We're
just
not.
like,
no.
oh, I see all the things
By the
lining
way,
up here.
great movie. Great movie.
Yeah, Russell Crowe.
Great movie.
Jennifer Connelly. I confused.
You wanted to say Aniston and Garner.
I wanted to say Garner first, and then I was like, wait, nope, Connolly.
By the way, we don't do. I think we kind of do pop culture, but we don't do pop culture.
A little bit.
So are we riding with this? I feel like I'm not a gossipy guy, but I kind of want to ask this question.
Let's do it. We talk about sports in a very gossipy way. Let's just do it.
So
you doing the Blake Lively thing?
No, not Blake Lively.
Okay.
Not
okay, because there's some drama there too.
Yeah, but
what do we got?
So, get my nuts. No, not. Speaking of which, what's going on with Aniston and Barack? I'm sorry. Just stick to sports.
I don't know. All of a sudden on my TikTok algorithm, I get these videos that are like, are Jennifer Aniston and Barack Obama having a thing? Like Michelle hasn't been around lately. What's going on?
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
But I like my TikTok algorithm, so I'm not messing with it.
You're
No, I'm kind of vibing with it.
All right.
It's playing my music. My dumb butt got on. I was just playing random songs last night, and so it's kind of on this music thing. Mm-hmm. And but I'm like, shoot, if I go through and I reset it, I don't know. I kind of like where I'm vibing right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have to deal with some of the mucky muck.
I
just fast forward. So if I scroll like if I just go,
yeah.
What does it?
That impacts your algorithm too. Like if you skip a video, basically.
Okay, so I just need to skip a few that may be a little extra that I don't want.
Yeah, you got to move on fast.
Yeah.
Because the longer you watch the video, the more the algorithm.
Lot of snarky dad to his dad to kid to wife jokes.
Sure.
So I maybe I need to be nicer.
Nicer to your family.
Yeah. A lot of that going on.
Yeah, you gotta swipe through the ones you don't want to watch. That way it impacts your algorithm the right way. Because I never like hard reset my algorithm. I kind of do it like organically.
I've probably done it 4 times, I bet.
Yeah, I kind of do it organically. I'm like, I don't want to watch that.
Yesterday, and Micah deleted his, and he can't get it back, so he's not happy.
What'd you delete it for, Micah?
I don't know.
So I spent.
We need to hit him up because, I always tell him to
You
make
need
sure.
more people in my life that are gonna slap my hands about stuff.
Yeah, he did. What did he want me to ask you yesterday?
Amen Thompson.
Yeah. Oh, he was on one
He's
yesterday.
fine.
Yeah.
He's fine. We'll see what happens. It's too early to take a victory lap.
Guys and he's such a, I don't know what you call his personality, but a couple guys, obviously, with colleges in town and recruiting, a couple guys getting offers. And he doesn't care really who you play for. Like, he doesn't understand allegiances yet. He's like, oh, it's good for him and him because I'm tired of seeing other guys get offers and him not get one. And I was like, we're not cheering for those guys. It could be whomever, right? And he knows all the tea.
Yeah.
Well, such and such is hurt and his Achilles and his this and his that. I'm like, look, man, right about now is when you start minding your own business.
He says he's doing too much.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not doing this thing where we go to watch other people play that you compete with. We're not doing that. And about another year when you're contributing more on Friday nights, you won't want to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You just
I do think it's different before, and maybe I'm just making
before those guys beat your head in.
like before
on
you get
Fridays?
to varsity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's different because you're all sort of. It feels more like you're all sort of in the same boat until then.
Yeah.
Like you're playing JV and freshman or whatever, right? And it's like it's real, but it doesn't feel the same.
It's still real to me, damn it.
That's an all-time great video.
It is, and I like wrestling. By the way,
Is this still real to you?
on my algorithm.
Of course.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes had a great. I am the cold-blooded sausage maker.
Every time I hear Dusty Rhodes,
you didn't.
I want to sing "Country Roads" by John Denver.
No,
Dusty Roads,
out on John
take
Denver.
me home.
Out on-
R.I.P.
out on John Denver. I knew that one.
Pour one out.
I did go down an
Poor
Elton John rabbit hole.
Yeah, what did we find?
Oh, I was just explaining because this was how it was told to me when I first found this song. I was traveling with the infamous Mr. Leslie, and he knows I'm an Elton John fan, and he has a catalog, and he pretends to be able to sing because he played in a band, which is how he wooed his wife. But that's a whole nother story, which, by the way, I don't even think you have to be good looking. I should ask Daniel because sometimes if you're just in a band,
Yeah, if you're in a band, yeah.
people gravitate towards that. And Daniel's wife is significantly better looking than him. And I would say John's is too. So I'm like, it must be the singing.
There is, I think, like in a band thing.
So, Shane, you have a couple of my renditions where I'm a great singer. Some he saved forever.
Mhm.
Maybe this is why I struggle. Shane, how about, do you remember my Keith Urban?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. It was
And I pray that I make
No.
it some
No. That is
islands in the stream.
no, not that one either.
You could hear a cricket now.
No, that's no. So
It's because I want a
no, Shane. So
yeah.
You doing all right?
I'm fine.
You all right? You sure?
Yeah,
What Elton John were you rabbit hole were you down?
Mona Lisa and Mad Hatters.
Okay.
So I can't remember where we were going. Maybe Minnesota.
Mhm.
I don't know. It was someplace far, and he was driving. And you are my sunshine.
Nailed it.
That was pretty good.
No, I was kidding. That was terrible.
Considering I'm half Iowegian, it's not true.
See, this is what happens. Like, so my friends beat up on me, and you encourage them, and then it comes back to you. That's the circle.
that's called projection.
Much like Elton John. It's the circle of life, you know.
By the way, again on the algorithm, Teddy Swims was doing a deal in studio with a guy, and they did the song they did a Lion King, the Lion King rendition, and Teddy Swims just went into character.
Like Hakuna Matata.
Now, is that a song you would like be crooning over? No.
Simba, I'm very disappointed in you.
You might be the dumbest person I've ever met. I'm so over
It'd be
it.
really funny to see like Teddy Swims in studio doing like.
No, but do you know his name's not even Teddy?
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. Teddy Swims does feel like a super.
He was going to go with just Swims when he thought he was going to be like this hip-hop guy.
Yeah.
But it didn't go that way. And he was fat as a kid, so they called him like Teddy. He was fat like a teddy bear.
Mhm.
So Teddy just stuck.
Yeah, I mean Teddy Swims feels like a super fake name. Like it doesn't seem like.
I didn't think it was his government.
Are you sure? Like that's not his given Christian name.
Oh, I see.
Theodore Excelsior Swims.
Anyway, I missed the market for being a good singer.
You missed it.
Yeah, but I still practice.
Well, you got good at sports. They got good at singing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can't have everything.
Yeah,
You can't have everything, DB.
knock it off, Shane.
All right.
Records, take your
Unless you're
freedom.
unless you're Bronson Arroyo.
Oh, why? That's a deep cut.
He has albums.
Oh, is he still wearing like the head tie headband thing?
I don't think so. I think
maybe that's a musician thing too.
I think he stopped doing the cornrows, which is a good move for him,
And by the way,
considering he was
my last TikTok thing.
Yeah.
I do probably need to reset it because I'm over kind of whatever Billie Eilish did at her last concert. I'm not interested.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Don't.
I have no.
Don't.
I have no
Don't
Billie
listen.
Eilish on
Listen,
mine.
Listen. Don't.
Don't look.
No.
Now I kind of want to Google.
When I say keep it pushing, I mean keep it pushing. So, anywho, what was your NBA hot take?
I think the Warriors should trade Steph Curry. I think they should trade him.
You're winning.
No, they're actually not. They got their head beat in again.
No, they beat Utah barely.
Oh, that's right. They almost did trick that off, but did not.
Against the worst team in the league.
So you having an unnatural allegiance to losers is not like you.
That's a good pull.
So now all of a sudden you want your boy out of San Francisco?
So everybody knows I'm a Curry fan over a Warriors fan, right? That's my allegiance. It's to Wardell Steffen, and he deserves better because I've been sitting here for damn near half.
No, I'm out. No. I'm out.
Okay.
See, no, you listen.
What?
Okay, you're one of these new age kids, and I get it because self-admittedly, all you do is ride with people. You don't ride with organizations. You don't like teams. The whole deserve better, go out and win. He's won plenty. I could see if he had no NBA titles.
Hold on.
He wasn't
Hold on.
He deserves better. He
does deserve better.
Listen, he's the franchise. They drafted him. You don't think like that. Like,
I'm not saying he would leave. I'm saying they owe it to him.
They don't owe him bleep.
Yeah, they do. Because for the last 5 years, they've just been pissing away these assets.
I can't believe this.
No, they've been pissing away these assets rather than try and put a contender around him.
They owe it to Steph Curry for him to go out a winner?
They owe it to him to have put a better team around him the last few years. And they're just like, oh, no, we're going to build for the future with Kuminga and Moody and Wiseman. How's that worked out?
You're a wiener.
And Poole. Get out of here.
They did. They sent him out.
They did. And they sent him and Wiseman out for nothing after they blew their value. It's been organizational malpractice.
They paid luxury tax out of the wazoo so you could run around out here gallivanting with your skirt and pom-poms on.
Would you like
half dressed wearing Golden State gear when they're winning titles, paying for other teams' salary caps around the league, and you didn't say a word. You enjoyed those championships, and has it vaulted Stephon Wardell Curry into the top 10 GOAT status? Where were you then? They're going into a new arena. They're going to raise ticket sales. They want to pay for this talented roster. Where were you then? Now they're getting their teeth kicked in, and you're like, I think
here's the problem.
Steph Curry deserves better.
Here's the problem. Is they're still paying the money? They're just doing it for a bad roster.
Oh, fuck.
They're still paying the money for a bad roster.
That's what happens. You had to reset.
No,
you won your little title in 2018. Beating up on the lowly, plucky Dodgers.
It was the 2021.
And Boston's.
Okay. No, 2021 was Boston.
Who was 8? They were 18. Who was 18? What am I missing?
Was also the Warriors, but Boston was 2021.
Okay, I'm confusing your love affairs with you being mad about when teams don't spend money to get you championships, and then you're mad.
No, I'm mad how you spend the money. Spend money smarter.
It's not your money. You're like the dudes running around crying that Satterfield still makes $1 million.
No, I don't care about the money.
Get your hand out of their pockets.
Spent. I care about, hey, if you're going to spend the money, don't be a moron. That's what I care about. Like, I don't care that
You're
the Reds.
too old to be using the word moron.
As opposed to what? What would you? I mean, I don't be a dum dum. Like,
Ding dong.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
That's adult.
yeah, like Bunda.
No, that was uncalled for.
I'm sitting here. Listen, I'm not mad that they paid David Price. I'm mad that they paid David Price and then didn't pay Mookie Betts. That's my problem. I don't care. It's not my money. I don't care how you spend it. Or I don't care if you spend it. Just spend it smart.
That might be the dumbest take I've ever. Curry deserves better.
He does deserve better.
Oh my gosh.
He does deserve better. That franchise is a joke without him.
Loyalty.
Loyal to Stephen Wardell. That's where my loyalty lies.
Incredible.
And I've been upfront about it the whole time. You knew where my loyalties lie. I would have liked it to have worked out here with the Warriors, but they refused to do anything. They're like, don't worry, we got Dennis Schroeder. Oh, good. Which is a nice pickup, but not like it doesn't.
That dude's
fix
been
anything.
a Laker like 24 times. I'm familiar.
It doesn't fix anything.
Schroeder, he'll help you out.
You're winning.
Yeah, he'll help you make the play-in team. Cool. Dope.
Wow, you're man, I can't believe you.
I'm spoiled.
He deserves better.
He does deserve better. You had the assets to cash in to extend this run, and they're like, no, we think Kuminga's the future.
It's freaking bats.
Morons. Oh, sorry. Ding dongs. Like, what's the TikTok song? Ding dong. That's an old one. That's old school. That's my NBA hot take.
That's fine.
Either make a move to make yourself a contender, which I think we're past that point. They don't really have the assets for that anymore. Or trade Steph. That's what I want. That's all I want.
All right. It is Giving Wednesday.
You know what
You
else
have
they
somebody
could do?
riding with you. It's pride. I'm with Ravi. I've
know
been
what
telling
else
my
they could
friend
do?
for a month they should get stuff out. But is it because they owe it to him or because they have a chance to get some assets?
Well, both.
That's not what you said.
No, I don't.
There's clearly a difference.
I don't care about what the Warriors get back once Steph's gone.
See
but
that's
it also,
that's selfish,
at
Ravi.
this point, it is the only smart organizational move to reset the roster.
Yeah.
Both can be true, and I can only care about one of them.
Make a play for Jimmy Butler. He's suspended again.
Yeah, that's going to be great. Can't wait. Honestly, the only thing they should do, if they're going to try and do anything, is they should try and get value for the distressed asset of Zion. That's what they should try and do, because it's a high risk, high reward, but that's where we're at. There's no safe place here anymore.
Shane, it's 2025 and Ovechkin's having highlights on SportsCenter. Did you ever think that was going to be a thing?
No.
Dude is still pucking.
He's like
at a high level.
I'm sorry, he's still what?
Pucking.
Oh, okay. Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, reminding you to buckle up. It prevents injuries and saves lives, but only when worn properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Listen.
Hey, you're the one getting hammered. Don't. It ain't me.
I'm not getting hammered. Just because people are throwing rocks at me, they're bouncing right off. All right. This house ain't made of glass. Okay. The kids, they don't call me Mr. Glass.
This is on the heels of multiple homicides being committed yesterday. It's a good thing.
I must be a cat because I'm still here.
No, you're like the dude in Fallen, Denzel. With Denzel, you just keep changing bodies because you're getting whacked.
Because I'm not even worried about it.
Buddy, whack it.
I'm just saying, our guy, it is all for my buddies, which is I might have to reevaluate. Those people know I'm not afraid to cut people off. So, our guy RP is who it has famously the worst take of the NBA was better in the 80s and 90s. It's not terrible. Okay, it wasn't. Is trying to tell me that it's a bad take, but I will say he makes a good point here. He goes, it'd be like saying the Chiefs owe it to Mahomes to get him a top-tier wide receiver. If that's the thing that was preventing Mahomes from winning more Super Bowls, they would owe it to him. Also, thank you for comparing Curry to Mahomes. That's a proper analogy. Thank you. I appreciate that. They break the math. There are two guys at their position that break the math.
Okay. I will ride with that. That's pretty linear.
No.
I'll take it. You don't give me a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah, like they break the analytics.
Yeah, I'll ride with that.
It's true. Look at me.
No,
That's
no,
one. That's
no.
one today. That's one. We're keeping a scoreboard now. I'm gonna start bringing a whiteboard here, and I'm gonna hang it up. And every time I back you into a corner where you're like, "Gosh, dang it, Ravi's right," we're gonna mark. Just gonna mark it on there. Sasha, can we get a chalkboard?
Oh man.
Coming up on the show today, we got Brian Christopherson at 8 o'clock from Husker 24/7. 8:30 is Andy Kendeigh from KETV. 9 o'clock, we've got Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. And 9:45, we've got Russell Baxter talk a little NFL from Fansided. Speaking of Patrick Mahomes, though.
What?
Speaking of Patrick Mahomes, you
Yes?
called me yesterday.
I did. I was struggling.
You were noodling.
I was. Well, yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking. You're getting the old noodle working here.
3 bosses ago, I had a guy that dropped that term on me.
Noodling?
Yes, and it stuck.
3 bosses ago is Andy?
Correct. Very good. You would not be my game partner because I'd end up killing you, but that you do. It's very good. It's very good.
Yeah, and so you call me. You go, okay. We're trying to figure out kind of a corollary for this.
Game Dog came back with a vengeance.
Oh.
We just asked where this dude was, and he comes in just regurgitating data.
My God, Game Dog.
Picked up where he left off.
None of these people that say this watched regular season 80s and 90s basketball.
No, I know. Listen.
You know what I'm saying.
I do.
You know what I'm saying.
I do.
We're not going to rehash this. You called me yesterday, though. You go, hey, trying to figure out a corollary between this Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes thing.
Yeah, it was all over the talking heads. It was, and everybody kept saying Reggie Miller, and it's not Reggie Miller. So I called you and I said, hey,
Is Josh Allen better than Reggie Miller?
am I misremembering? Like Reggie Miller was
He was
good.
He was very good.
But he wasn't Josh Allen to his sport.
I think that's correct.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Well, thank you.
I agree.
I'm pretty smart.
See, I'm going to put one over here. This DB was right. Ravi was right up here. DB was right down here. Put a mark.
Why are you up there and I'm down here?
Well, because I can't reach I can't go left and right here. I can't laterally reach. I don't have the super long arms.
Yeah, it's not Reggie Miller.
No, I think Josh Allen's better than the equivalent of Reggie Miller in the sport. I think Reggie Miller would be like Phillip Rivers.
That was so that was over text though, right?
Yeah, that part was.
Phillip Rivers. So I thought about that. I thought about Phillip Rivers.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think you could easily make the case to put I would put Phillip Rivers in the Hall of Fame probably.
I think so. I would agree.
Now, I'm going to get some pushback. Severe and I have argued round and round about this. And he makes some good salient points. I probably would put Phillip in. But I think relative to – this is hard, so hang in here. Because I get the game is vastly different. But Phillip Rivers plays it more when he was playing like quarterbacks play today.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah, I could buy that.
It's much more wide open.
Mm-hmm.
But quarterback play is tailored more to Phillip in 2025 than 2010.
Like he'd be better now than he was then.
I would agree with that.
I'd buy that.
Okay, so
and Rivers
now having said that,
yeah.
Allen is better amongst his peers currently than I think Rivers ever was.
I think so. I think that's fair. Because the list with Rivers was Brady, Manning, Gap, Roethlisberger, Rivers, the rest of that group, right?
Yeah, now,
is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. Although, again, I'm one of those guys that I tell you, Roethlisberger should age better than we talk about him.
That's fair.
And this isn't just
statistically, he will age better. I think
he was really good.
He was, but there's a gap between those two and everybody else.
Yeah.
Now it's Mahomes, Gap, Allen, Jackson, Burrow.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
you could make the case. Depending on what happens.
I think I'd put Allen over Jackson at this point.
It's closer. And I said this. I can't remember who I said this to yesterday. I feel like I was arguing about this with everybody. Not arguing, but I was having this conversation. Because
you're trying to figure out the corollary.
Marino gets the comp, for quarterbacks that couldn't get over the hump. But again, we kind of misremember Moreno's career, right? Great pure pass. I'm not arguing with
arm talent,
any of that.
Yeah.
But again, I'm also one of those guys that would make the case where if you ask, I mean, gun to head, I'm still not sure who I take between Warren Moon and Dan Marino.
Fair.
Right? So I love Marino.
Warren Moon could sling it.
He was incredible.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
Total side note, another guy that would have aged way better in today's system, both Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham.
I was,
because the only reason I say that is back then when you had a guy that could run like that, they were like, hey, we got to make him a passer.
I understand. I just think Randall was so anecdotally wildly inconsistent with accuracy. I mean, you can't just throw long balls to Mike Quick and Moss.
But they would have taken his...
The game is the passing game is different.
Fair. They would have.
Now, could Randall have been an RPO guy?
I'd say they would have leaned into his strengths way better in this era, I think.
But
but that's besides the point.
Like the guy, we're kind of overlooking real-time Burrow.
Yeah, we are, because he's been out of our mind for a couple
and
years.
He's only played for the one, right? Like Burrow could be in trouble.
Yeah.
When I ask who's our national guy, it's like how many guys we talking about here that could have gold jackets that got to be thinking the time is now.
That was just Arif.
Was it? It was Vinny Iyer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, like Burrow's. Go look at Burrow is an afterthought. His season statistically was on par with anybody that has ever played the game. Sans Brady's 50-8 or whatever he went.
But he didn't make the playoffs. They weren't a very good team.
Never in the MVP discussion. I mean, nothing.
Yeah.
Like Burrow's incredible.
Yeah. That's the guy. Burrow is the guy that I picked over Allen and Jackson consistently because he's the only guy that I think can challenge Mahomes. Now, the team's not good enough around him right now. But
and head-to-head, Burrow has some notches.
He's the only guy to have beaten Mahomes in the playoffs besides Brady.
Yeah, David's got it.
What's he got?
David's got it. I don't know why I didn't think of this. Jerry West versus the Celtics.
Oh, yeah.
That's
went really good.
I went Bradshaw Stabler.
Yeah.
I went Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, so Ewing's the one I get.
Ewing was great.
Yeah, Ewing versus Jordan is the one that comes to my mind.
But I still don't know that Ewing was as good in the NBA amongst his peers as Allen is amongst his. Listen, Allen is elite.
So was Peak Ewing. Peak Ewing was Peak Ewing was elite.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Jerry West is a great pull. I'm not arguing with Jerry West.
I think Jerry West may be the pull.
But we can keep talking about this after the break, too, because I think Patrick Ewing is close.
Because, what my whole point in this is we're underselling Josh Allen. It's not Josh Allen's fault.
Oh, 100%.
So these guys that
100%.
are like, he's got to get out over the hump, and he had the ball with a couple minutes. He made the throw that he needed to make.
The guy didn't catch it.
So then the whole thing just set me off. I'm like, all right. We're underselling Josh Allen.
I agree. Let's revisit this as we come back. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We're having this conversation about Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and what's a historical kind of corollary for what we're seeing here.
And this is on the heels of so it's twofold. But before we get into, because there's some good ones out here.
But there's two qualifications that it has to meet.
So, but the conversation is birthed twofold, right? Number one is how bleak. How bleak is it if you're the rest of the NFL, in particular in the AFC?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, do you if I'm Bo Nix, and I'm like, ooh, sky's the limit, man. Here we come.
And then you look at your division.
I look at my roster, and I'm like, holy buckets.
Yeah.
We're 26 years and 3 months. The Chiefs are 26 years and 9 months.
Yeah. And they've got Mahomes.
He's not even in it. This isn't even the peak of his career. He's getting ready to hit his peak.
Yeah, he's about to hit what would typically be the prime of his career.
Right?
Yeah. Because he's 27?
Yeah. So, like, are you thinking?
Yeah.
So, are you thinking like, ooh, now's my time? Like, how are you going to training camp? That's kind of like
Yeah.
it's
bleak.
Do you feel defeated?
I mean, probably not because
what we say about Bama? Well, we have to wait for Saban to retire, which didn't end up having to be true. But at once upon a time, we felt like that,
and it did take for him to age. I mean, the last few years is when people really started to get him.
So there's that. Mm-hmm. Like, what's it mean for the rest of the AFC? Because I said yesterday before we got off air, this isn't the Chiefs' fault, but they're not compelling.
Yeah,
it's not compelling.
Mahomes is 29. That's my bad. But yeah, so that's one. It's bleak.
And the other thing is like, how good are some of these guys that he's playing with? Like, we literally were trying to blank. We're like, hey, fire McDermott. Hey, Josh had the ball with 3 minutes to go. Like, this is on. I'm like, well, are you just looking for talking points? Because I could blame that game on a lot of things, and Josh Allen isn't one of them.
No, it's not.
He's just not.
No.
Because for as great as they were waxing poetic about a corner blitz for 3 minutes,
he got the ball off.
We couldn't even go back and get the replay of Kindeigh till the next series when they didn't even have the ball.
Yeah, he got the ball off. He got the ball off, threw it about 40 yards off his back foot to an open guy.
But here's the other thing. This is what I was talking to AJ about with the Cam Newton reference and some of these other references. You have to find somebody that balls out head-to-head the way that Allen does when he sees Mahomes, and it's still not good enough.
So that's a really good point. So you have to
listen. You know what I want to say?
Yeah,
I know.
You have to have a couple things. So I think the reason I say it because I don't think people are thinking about it head-to-head the same way, right? They're thinking about
because it's not going anywhere. Well, that's why I'm looking for the comps.
Right. So they're thinking of a guy who was really good to great.
Yeah, it's not Marino.
Hasn't broken through, but they're not thinking about the head-to-head. That's why my buddy brought up Allen Iverson.
I said, right, I'm like, it's not Iverson.
As a player, maybe he fits the mold, but there was no white whale, right? So that's why I brought up Ewing, right? Because as a player, I think that's pretty close. And then he had Jordan as his white whale that he couldn't get across the hump. Now, I don't remember game to game if he balled out the way Josh Allen does, but that's pretty close in terms of a historical corollary and not being able to slay the giant. Jerry West is a really good one.
I almost want to say Wilt.
So
I almost said it yesterday, but I still don't think.
So here's a couple things on Wilt. One, I think Wilt career-wise is way better than Josh Allen.
We don't talk about Wilt like that, though.
We don't, but we should.
We don't talk about Wilt with near the reverence we should.
Here's the other problem with Wilt. Is head-to-head against Russell, he got his head beat in.
That's not true. Statistically speaking, Wilt, I guarantee you, against the Celtics, Wilt hit his average and then some. Google it.
I'm going to look it up because I'm almost positive.
The real reason why I like Wilt?
Why is that?
Is because he did ball out, but he was playing against a superior franchise.
He was playing against a superior franchise. I'm not saying it's his fault.
And the Chiefs are the Chiefs right now are a superior franchise. There's nothing they don't do well.
So that brings me to another thing I was thinking about because I
that's daunting. Like, you have to wait for them. You have to wait for something
to happen.
They give you the impression that you have to wait for something that is out of your control.
Yes, you have to wait it out. So here's the thing
that's kind of miserable.
So that kind of brings me up to this thing I was thinking about with the Chiefs because I think we were talking to Vinny about it, and we were asking like, hey, because we brought up the McDermott thing, which I think it's kind of a ridiculous notion that McDermott should be fired. But I thought the premise was interesting that you're not going to catch Mahomes, so you have to catch the Chiefs somewhere else, right? Now, I don't think that's going to be with coaching. I don't know that you're going to get somebody so much better than McDermott that you're going to close the gap on Reed, right? But is there any place, because they play special teams well, obviously the defense is really good, like where is a place, because it's not a perfect team, right? Chiefs are really, really well run, but they're not perfect. Where is the place where you could
I think you need
theoretically close the gap?
You need good health. You need good health, number one.
So a little luck.
And I think you have to do it on the defensive side of the ball. Because what the Chiefs have shown you is they'll play any way you want to play it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't try to outdo where they're really good. And that's opportunities of excellence in crunch time. Don't put that kind of – you're not going to out-execute Kansas City in crunch time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So but you don't have to concede it either. I'm not saying that. But control the things you can control. I think you have to get better on defense. I do. Because the Chiefs don't necessarily do it with just scheme or just personnel. They do it with a little bit of both. Right? And I think that's a controllable. So that's a controllable. And we're talking about maximizing the 105 for Nebraska.
Yeah.
All 53 guys for the Chiefs,
can do something. They can do something.
Yeah. Again.
Which is less common on an NFL roster.
Tweeting right after the game.
Yeah.
P. Ryan makes the most important play of the game.
Yeah.
And Buffalo's best receiver didn't.
Yeah, drop the ball.
Like that's
0 carries, 1 target.
What are you supposed to do with that?
There's nothing you can do. The one area I thought, and maybe this is too simplistic, defense obviously matters here, especially in the context of what I'm about to suggest. But there almost seems like there's a place for a Harbaugh, like a Jim Harbaugh-esque style, the way he beat Ohio State, right? Of pounding, like just trying to pound their heads in with defense and running the football.
Well, that's fine.
And I don't even know if that
agree with
works.
you because you do have to play. You do have to play with a certain level of physicality up front, and you have to make the Chiefs pay for situationally matching you up. Like, they're allowed to play with 240-pound ends sometimes just to rush and pinch the passers, but
because they're going to be ahead 90% of the time.
But it's like, and I think Philadelphia can win the game. I don't have
this isn't.
It's a coin flip kind of game for me, but I'm not subscribing to Saquon is the difference because Saquon's not a guy you salt clock with.
No, he's a home run guy.
Yeah, I mean, Saquon is like their biggest big play guy.
Yeah, he's not 4 yards, 6 yards.
So, I mean, maybe it's Gainwell, maybe it's Hurts running the ball, but it's not like,
But for the thing we're talking about, that's not what Saquon does.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I do think there's a version of having a salt the clock guy. I don't know if that's with Philly or with Gainwell or who else, right? But I think that's the version because you can't this goes back to the Moneyball line, right? If you want to,
do you remember the score last year with the Ravens and the Chiefs?
Off the top of my head, no.
Oh, that was in the teens. You should have been able to win that thing with 17 points, and they couldn't.
Maybe if they had Derrick Henry, they could have. I don't know. Like maybe if they have Derrick Henry last year, they can. I don't know. I also don't know what to do with Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. I don't know. Right? Like you want to talk about a guy that doesn't really ball out when he goes head-to-head in the playoffs, it's Lamar Jackson.
There's a lot of flock going on. Let's go, baby.
Let's go, baby.
So I don't know what to do with that.
I just don't know about.
But you're right. I don't think Saquon's that version of a running game that you need because if you try and play the same game that the Chiefs are playing, they're going to beat you.
Okay, and I'm just like, a lot of things are a lot of people's fault, but Josh Allen is the last person I would start with.
I would agree.
Statistically, I'm not saying he's played better. You could make the case.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. This is why I don't rest in that. Like that's the low-hanging, easy fruit. Well, if you line up their stats, Allen to Mahomes and Crunch, I mean, Allen is right there. The thing that those stats don't show you is P. Ryan can come across the motion on a little rub mesh route, and it's third down or whatever it is with X amount of time on the clock, and Mahomes hits P. Ryan in stride. Samuel, conversely, similar concept on a little under route, and it's a misthrown ball where he can't run after the catch.
Mhm.
So that's why you can't just look at the statistics, because there's always those key goddamn throws that a guy makes, and in this case, my homie, that are on target that
that make a huge difference.
We totally undersell.
Yeah.
We totally undersell it.
That's one of those hidden yardage plays. We talk about it with like not fielding a punt, fielding a punt.
Yeah.
That's one of those hidden yardage plays where it's like throwing a ball on target versus not throwing the ball on target.
Same concept, same route, but much better throw.
And not going to show up in a box score.
Yeah.
Brian Christopherson coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centrist Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. What's up, BC?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
B, just a lot of hot takes this morning, man. Just a lot.
Oh, yeah?
Man. Oh, yeah, a lot of hot takes. Want one? You want a hot take? Well, let's just get your opinion. All right, who would you take, Marino or Warren Moon?
Warren Moon.
Oh, good. All right. Well, you're smart. Good pull. good pull. Game over. All right. Free you, BC.
He was a Viking, though. He was a Viking at the end, and so I might be skewed by that. It's possible.
A little biased?
Yeah.
So we go ahead.
Go ahead.
We were just getting into these, all these talking head shows about, Allen and getting over the hump and the white whale and who's the comp and all this other stuff. And a lot of these guys, Barkley, Reggie Miller, Hart, some of these guys get thrown out there. And I'm like, you have to find a guy, like Wilt or Jerry West or somebody like my guy David said in our group chat, where they played well, like really well, held their own, and it just wasn't enough. Like Josh Allen plays really, really well against Mahomes. It's just never good enough. And I was just thinking to myself, and you're in this deal because you're a Vikings fan, and I'm a Steelers fan. And Vikings and Steelers are 12 and 13 respectively on a 13-team list of the 13 youngest teams in the NFL. And they're the only two teams on that list that aren't settled at quarterback. And the Chiefs are number 5, and they have Mahomes. Like, that's kind of daunting, right? Like, where's the optimism?
Yeah, it's tough to find. I thought more so last year with the Chiefs. I thought they were there for the taking all season, and they just showed like they just have that resilience and that clutch factor. And yes, they get a call here or there, but they just execute so well in situational football that you have to tip your hat. And I'm in the crowd that is sort of frustrated with the storyline as it is right now. And I know we're in Chiefs country, so I don't say that very often. Happy for Terry Braden, by the way, and that he gets to keep coaching one more game with them. But yeah, they're just so good. Like it's 3rd and 8 or whatever, with a couple minutes left, and you got to have that first down and not give the ball back. Andy Reid just has such a good feel for this is where we're going, and then he has a quarterback who just executes it to perfection. And it is daunting because you just know in those moments they're usually not going to flinch. They really haven't, and that's what makes it so tough on everyone. Reminds me of the Bulls when I was a kid in the 90s. I was a Bulls fan, and there were these moments where it felt like they were vulnerable or there for the taking, and they just would have that something that they had to have, that stop when they needed it or whatever, and they'd find a way. And it's almost like something you can't put your arms around, but it is greatness, and you got to appreciate that.
BC, it almost feels like because you're right. There's these moments of vulnerability where it seems like there's a crack in the armor, and then all of a sudden you find yourself, the minute you make a mistake, they take advantage. Like, it almost feels like the bizarro version of most of the last 10 years as a Nebraska fan, where the minute something bad would happen for Nebraska, it would all fall apart. It's almost the exact opposite for the Chiefs or the Bulls. Like, do we even know what that is? Is it just, hey, you've got the best quarterback or the best player on the planet, and they will always take advantage of that? Or what is that?
I think it's BC, could I convince you it's an organizational expectation?
Yeah, you could. And it's one of the goats at calling plays and one of the goats running them. I mean, it could be as simple as that. But yeah, I do think there's I don't know, when you do something well enough, long enough, you just expect it to happen. And not hoping.
I mean, do you think Samaje Perine is like, hey, he's warming up today? He's like, hey, man, Keith, third down, less than, a minute to go. And when my number's called, watch me make this play, right? Like, there's it's not just like the GOAT calling it and the GOAT throwing it. It's like everybody. Like, when did we start talking about the Chiefs' special teams and it didn't start with Butker? Oh, that's right. In the playoffs when it's mattered the most. Now all of a sudden they got this vaunted return game. I think everybody that's there, it's just like, well, this is just what we do. Like, there's power in that.
When you're surrounded by someone great or someone's really good at what they do, it definitely does raise your standard. I remember, this is kind of a silly example, but I can just speak from my own experience. When I was just getting started in writing at the Daily Nebraskan, it happened to have like Sam McEwen and Dirk Chatelain were there at the same time. And you just are around guys who are really good at what they do. And you're like, I got to go find a story and do as well as that guy, like I got to perform and hold up my end of the bargain. And I do think, when you are in an organization where there's someone that's so talented around you, even if you're a mediocre guy like me, you're like, I got to step it up in that moment and do my part. And I feel like the Chiefs have a bunch of guys like that. Like they see the greatness around them and they like, okay, this is an expectation with this guy. We're supposed to thrive in this moment. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to make that play that people don't expect, but is expected of me within these walls. And it is a pretty special thing when you've got that going. I'm envious of it as a Vikings fan, but I can respect it at the same time.
That's Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, let's move on to some Nebraska stuff here. Starting with Nebraska basketball, like obviously things not going super well right now. Where is your, I don't know if panic meter is the right word, but like where are you at right now in terms of how concerned you are about the rest of the season?
Yeah, I don't know if it's panic, but it's disappointment. It's thinking about how 3 weeks ago, like 25 minutes into the game at Iowa City, I saw some of the deficiencies in this team, but at the moment you're like, you know what, they are buying into this gritty, grimy thing, and you're seeing it here in this game, and finish this thing off, and they're on the path. You're seeing them like at that point as like, an 8 seed kind of team, and then it sort of slowly has slipped away where now you're like, can they make the top 15? They got some work to do to be in the Big Ten tournament, and so from that standpoint, it's disappointing because for all their faults, you still have, your seniors and Bryce Williams and Jawan Gary, and that's a lot of guys who have played a lot of basketball. And you were kind of hoping that they would have that ingredient kind of we were just talking about that the great teams have to win those close games. But they just haven't had it. And it feels like right now they're kind of searching for answers. You saw the lineup switch with the starters at the beginning of the game at Wisconsin, and it wasn't just because of that, but it's 19-2, 5 minutes in with that lineup. And I don't know, whatever their move they're trying to make right now, it just isn't quite connecting.
When you're talking about working within the confines of like the way the roster's constructed, if you want to control the controllables, what do you think Nebraska should accentuate to give themselves a chance to get out of this?
I think that's where it's a tough question because at some point we could really simplify it. It's like you got to have some shooters with the confidence to put it in when they're open. And I don't sense they have like really, I don't know, like third or fourth options that you can bank on in those situations. I mean, their point guards, for instance, are are trying hard and trying to excel at what they do well. But you can watch like Raleigh Wooster, and he can drive it and get in the paint and get within 5 feet of the bucket, but it's not a place he feels comfortable finishing. And then you have guys who we all kind of hope, I think, that like Berkay or Andrew Morgan would kind of develop like that consistent outside shot, or at least enough of a threat to space the floor more, and that really hasn't been there. So you ask that question, and it's hard to answer because I don't know who that specific guy is, aside from saying, well, Connor Essegian needs to just start going off and make 6 or 7 threes as compared to 2 or 3, you know? Like we're in the sort of that state where I don't think it's as simple as just naming that guy or this guy. But I do think, Bryce, I think is going to have to maybe attack even more than he has the last couple of weeks. He's had the numbers, but it has felt like at times it's been a little more passive than you would think from him. And so, maybe that's one place you start, but I think it's got to be with him and Gary, sort of like, this is the expectations. We're going this hard, and hopefully other guys follow. But there's not an easy way out right now.
BC, is it too late not in the season, but in kind of the time for Hoiberg at Nebraska to reevaluate how he puts these rosters together?
I'm sure they'll have to do a deep search after this season if it continues to not be what they want, about where in particular they missed. And then I think you have to study where other teams have really, really found it this past year, because it's evolving year after year. I want to be careful with it though, because like I think the last few years I've gone on the radio and kind of praised how he's put it together with veterans, and it like
I agree.
So I don't want to like be knee jerk right now in this skid and act like they've completely flopped there. It's sort of, I realize it's a win or else business, and right now it's or else. But I liked last year's roster I put together, and I really believe they thought going into this season, the parts when they put them on the board, they liked how the puzzle was going to look, but maybe some of those parts just haven't quite elevated to what they thought they were going to be in certain areas on the floor. Like we don't talk about even like a Gavin Griffiths, but I think there was a hope like he was going to take off and at least be in a rotation, maybe off the bench or something and knock in a couple threes. And, that hasn't been there. And so you could probably go through like 3 or 4 parts of guys they added that we could have talked ourselves into as recently as a few weeks ago. And right now we don't feel like having that conversation. So that's where it's tough to just take a bat to the pinata right now. But I do think they're going to have to look hard at where do we think we didn't quite get it right with this group and what has to change.
So, BC, the reason I asked that is I agree with you. The last few years, I thought the roster construction...
It's a fair question, Ravi. I just think it's hard to answer, because they have had some that I've liked what they've put together, but yeah.
For sure. And in the last few years, I agree with you. I think the roster construction has been much more coherent than it was the first couple. I guess I wonder, with where Nebraska's at kind of in the college basketball pecking order, is there a kind of hard limit on what they can accomplish, sort of trying to retool and rebuild the team every year the way it seems like they have been?
Well, I mean, there is that hope always that you can have this nucleus that comes up through your system and you're attaching to that with the portals, and you're not so dependent on the portal. But there's that part of me that also doesn't know how realistic that is anymore. If you can accomplish that or not, I'd love to see it happen. I'd love it if you could find this group of like 3 or 4 guys that sort of grows up through your system, and you can stick with them and have patience while you're adding these senior parts around them. But I don't know if you can do it or not. It would be an interesting study. I think there's probably been some frustration, and I'm happy for the guys who have succeeded, but not only has Nebraska had this 6-game losing skid, but you've had it where guys like St. Thomas and John Tajay have had big games against Nebraska. And so there's no doubt that like sort of puts it in bold-face writing too, like how bad this has felt, So I think that part probably hurts too, and so I know they've tried to continue to grow the brand locally, but those are some guys who have happened to really take off here lately that are doing well, that are homegrown kids, and so that probably adds to the frustration of folks.
Yeah, and I get it, and I think we got to be able to move on from that unless we say it a different way, right? It's like we can look at Saint and Dawson and Trout and Green, and we watched Salas and Chucky go at it last night. You mentioned Tanjay, Fiddler's playing for a top team in the country. Where we get to the point where you can say, okay, yeah, I see why they're doing X, Y, and Z, and it's not an indictment of Nebraska as long as we're having the conversation about Nebraska on why, like what they need to do within the confines of what they have. So I say that's you know what I mean?
I agree with you totally, Damon. I'm not really one to get into the whole thing about actually where they came from and all that, but I bring that up because I know that like when things are going bad, that always gets thrown on the pile too, right? I mean, it's just part of it. When like some local guys are doing well elsewhere, no matter what the circumstances were, and there's sometimes good reasons, and both parties want to be involved with each other too. But I agree with you. It's about what they got to do right now over there is like you're just looking at yourself. Like, where is this missing? Where was it more successful a year ago that have kind of flailed at?
Like what was I doing when we were getting to the 71 win percentage from March of 2023 until this 6-game skid, right? Because he's clearly proven he's a good coach.
Well, he's not one to make knee-jerk reactions, that's for sure. Because I think Hoiberg also looks at the 6-game skid and he thinks like, if we had 2 of those 4 games, this would be the conversation we thought we'd be having about this team. 2 of those 4 close games they lost. And, those were games they were able to win. And, they had something special sort of in those clutch moments. It actually does kind of connect to how we started this conversation. I mean, last year's team during their run, which everyone kind of got caught up in, they would have these moments where, Rink would go off for 30 one game, but then Wilcher would come over here and he'd have 24 another game. And there was always somebody who hit a clutch shot when it was like a 2-point game that gave Nebraska a 5-point lead with 2 minutes left at PBA. And they just sort of had that magic, but I think it was more than magic. It was, they just had more options to go to offensively. And so that's where it just hasn't hit this year. There's not as many guys, I think, capable in those moments or confident right now in their shot to put in the hole, like when you have to have it. And that was different with them a year ago. So you gotta have to look at what you got to do to change the roster in that aspect at a few spots probably.
So I love kind of, we watch these videos and they pan the audience, you media guys, since I always like to separate myself only when it's convenient. As Coach Rhule will take the podium on Saturday, are you prepared, BC, to just frantically? Are you going to have pre-made columns because you're going to have like he could hit 15 different things on the buffet menu on this Saturday blurb, and that may be it. Are you prepared to be just typing frantically trying to get everything?
I'm excited for that.
I mean, it's got to be a buffet, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think they need to carve out an hour for us. Give us an hour there. We might need it. I don't know where you start, but there's all sorts of you could go with the portal additions that have come since the last time he talked and why they like certain guys and how they fit. There's that part. There's the, of course, continued conversation about just hearing him say what he thinks the challenges or the road is to getting to 105. There's these guys you want updates on, like their physical health, that are still listed on the roster that I think people are just want to hear the head coach talk about like Teddy and Turner and Demetrius Bell and players like that, like, okay, what's their situation? There's a specific positions. Where do you still want to, where you feel like you could add one more? Is it, 2 or 3 spots? And I just think it's important. We talk to hear the head coach, like, say out loud on some of these topics that are, repeated over and over again, what he thinks right now. And so it is going to be, I think, a really good press conference with a lot of information. And part of the reason you have confidence in saying that is because of the head coach involved, and that he's not going to just get up there and not give you some answers that are intriguing.
You mean you don't think he's going to have an intro like some of the NFL head coaches that have been at their press conferences lately?
Oh, my gosh.
And
that's getting all the run. I still don't think that was the strength. Well, it might be. It was pretty strange. I thought Ben Johnson was kind of out there, too.
I didn't even see their press conferences, but I do not take for granted what we have right now as far as in that setting, and how he considers questions and how he gives thoughtful answers and how he communicates to the fan base and understands how the fan base is in on it with them and the mission. And there's always an understanding, I think, from him of that when he does those press conferences. And that's a rare trait in a lot of head coaches. So I really respect that about him.
Your KOC got the extension. When's the last time as a Vikings fan you felt like as long as guy blank is there, we'll be just fine?
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings have had some coaches I've really liked, like Denny Green, I was a big fan of, and stuff like that. But you're right. I mean, KOC, I think you talk about, I know they failed in the playoffs, so people could take a bat to this as well, but he's been pretty good in close games. And part of it, I think, is he has a temperament where, they sort of believe in those settings they're going to succeed. And I actually, during the regular season, I actually expect the Vikings to come through more than I don't because of that and sort of what they've built in with the organization. Now they got to figure out a way to get to the playoffs where that kind of carries forward. But I think that's a big thing you're looking for in a coach. And, to bring it to locally, I think you look at Rhule's record on his third year and beyond, I think it's 31-10. And here we are in year 3, and he's sort of always had that confidence in what he's doing and has had an ability to evolve to what the circumstances are around him. And so you're hoping that he shows he's one of those guys too as a head coach, where here in year 3, we start to see that belief he has in what he's doing take off in the players as well, and they win those close games.
How much do you think he has an advantage, considering I think he knows how they want to play on offense and defense that will help him trim that 105, right? Because ultimately that's how you have to practice. It makes you really be cognizant of who you want to be as a football team, right? Like that year 3 and that success, maybe that could be kind of a sneaky advantage.
Yeah, I think so. And I do think the bowl practices probably helped a lot in that too. Like, Dana Holgerson talked about how he got those like 8 to 10 practices, or he got 15, but the first 10, he was already like, I know a lot more about these guys than I did beforehand. And I think that's information that's going to be useful. I think they'll have an easy enough time, and I say that, what I mean, to get to like 110, 112.
Yep.
I think when you get to those last 5 or so, it'll be really challenging.
I'm waiting for the taxi squad to be mentioned before fall camp opens next year, BC.
Yeah, you have a lot to look forward to. Me, not as much.
That's our guy, Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, B.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. And we're joined now by our friend Andy Kendeigh from KETV. AK, what's going on?
What's going on, boys? How are you? Happy Wednesday to you.
Oh, happy Wednesday to you. I'm just trying not to, and you're going to have a hard time believing this. I'm just having a hard time not trying to choke Ravi. We're over here looking at the Dodgers season win total, sitting at a paltry 104.5 right now, which seems kind of high.
No, listen, Andy.
High.
We want to know You want to know the real reason he's mad at me?
Oh, no. It probably needs context.
I'm going to give some context here. So we're talking about teams. He's talking about the Lakers. He's talking about his teams. He doesn't like AD. He doesn't like LeBron. All right, fine, whatever.
I hate this Carolina team.
But then he goes, and I swear, if the Dodgers sign any more good players, I'm going to have a hard time rooting for them. And so I call the ambulance for him. I go, oh, no, my favorite team signing too many good players. Oh,
he said it 15 times off air. I wanted to choke him.
And then that's when he had me look up the win total.
104.
Well, it is I was going to say the Dodgers, luxury tax be damned. I guess money is no object there.
Well, when you defer all the money, there is no luxury tax, right?
I mean, they won 111 in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that go?
If they don't win 105, something's wrong.
COVID, baby. We saw the Yanks in '98, the Mariners in 2011 or 2001. Like, we've seen some gaudy win totals. Even the sucky Cubs won 116 once. I mean, it was eons ago, but
yeah. And the leather glove, the big puffy catcher's mitt days, right?
Yeah.
You had to try to dig the ball out of the catcher's mitt. Sure, did it?
Yeah, the ambulance. Huh? Okay. AK.
I like that.
Hey, so, I mean, just the way you drew it up, right? Chucky Hepburn, he decides on Louisville. We're like, oh, my gosh, go get paid, Chucky. Go get the bag. That program is in disarray. All of a sudden, Kelsey's up for Coach of the Year, and he's probably going to be first-team All-ACC. That's about how you drew it up, right?
I'll tell you what. When we were in Louisville, I know one of the sports anchors there. We've gotten to know each other over the years, and we talked about Chucky, and he said he's a difference maker in so much more, as we know. I mean, he was telling me things I didn't know. All I was doing was nod my head. He was like, you know what, Andy? He does so much that it doesn't show up in the box.
You're like, yeah, since he's been 14.
I've seen this thing since he was a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
And I mean, when he was like, and he's a leader, he's a go-to guy when it comes to sound bites and whatever. I mean, he's a spokesperson, et cetera. And I'm like, yeah, that's why people in Nebraska. I'm like, what happened? Why couldn't we get this guy to stay in the state? But I understand. You understand the big picture. I understand the big picture. Sometimes it's about fit, and it's about what the individual case is. And the problem is, though, fellas, as you've seen this guy, and this is really kind of shining in the last few weeks when you see Chucky and then you see Hunter, St. Thomas. I mean, you can go down the list of guys that are excelling at other schools. It doesn't help when the conversation gets louder and louder when the biggest school in the state is spiraling in the other direction.
And it's not like Nebraska didn't try to recruit these guys; they did.
100%. And Creighton had their hat in the game for these fellas too. Let's not kid ourselves, right? And just because they chose to go elsewhere isn't a knock on the schools themselves for not trying, because I think they did try. And good on them, man. I'm all for rooting for the state kids, and it is funny when I talk to my guys in Wisconsin too, and they say, well, wait, they're like, what's in the water in Omaha? And I go, we had a run here in the metro for about 3-4 years, which I don't know if we'll see. Wisconsin loses Chucky, and you get John Tonjan. It's like, okay, there's another guy. They're like, wait, they played in the same conference? I'm like, yeah, they play like 2, 3, 4 times a year, depending on how the state tournament bracket drew up. So,
and it's funny too, because Tonji was down in New Mexico. He stopped for like a cup of coffee to sign some NIL paperwork, and he's like, nah, let me go back up. Let me see what Madison's talking about. And he's going to be in the run for all conference.
Absolutely. And when was the last time you had 3 Metro kids all conference, and you arguably, they'll be the runner play of the year in those conferences, right? I mean, let's be honest, they'll be all conference kids, and good for Taji, man. He was such an under the radar guy too, and to see him blossom the way he is, good for them. And he's really, I mean, Matt, you saw it last weekend. I'll tell you what, fellas, that was depending on who you're rooting for, man, you woke up on Sunday morning. If you didn't get up on time, it wasn't worth watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy. I just cleaned up the kitchen, and I found $17 AK in my Blazer pocket.
Stop it.
I did.
17?
Right, $17, man. And right after the Nebraska-Wisconsin game, I went and got a bulk bag of charcoal to burn through this week, man. That's a true story. But you're right. It's like you get done and you're kind of settling in, and you blinked and you're like, oh, are they going to miss? Oh. And then Nebraska shows this resolve, and you're like, holy smokes, that's a way to fight. Like, he's still got this team, and then the start of the second half happened. Did you even entertain the thought that Nebraska was gonna make the comeback?
No.
Are you sure?
19-2. It's 19-2, and Wisconsin's like, I was like, okay, we don't, when does those championship games start? That's what you're thinking. You're like, okay, what can I do to fill the time between now and then? That was uninspired, in my opinion.
So, AK, I think there's, you brought up an interesting point with Creighton and Nebraska and them actually, them trying to recruit these guys, or at least a lot of these guys at various points, whether it's out of high school or in the transfer portal. I think there's a couple of things here that make it a little bit easier for Creighton, because you don't hear the same narrative with Creighton as you do with Nebraska about local kids. One, their hit rate on local kids has been better than Nebraska's as of late. And two, obviously the team's been better. But I also think people maybe are not used to kids from Nebraska being better than the programs in the state in terms of their options, right? Like, nobody cares that Harrison Barnes didn't go to Iowa State because he was the best player in the country coming out of high school. People kind of understood it. I don't know that we're used to that dynamic with the programs in the state and the players in the state, if that makes sense.
Well, but I will say, Ravi, that, they were pretty upfront about, I mean, it's not like they were trying to hide who they were going after. I mean, Frankie Fiddler was at practice one day.
Mm-hmm.
And don't think Mac didn't bang he shook the trees on Chucky, too. Don't kid yourself now.
Absolutely. I mean,
Nebraska was in the running for St. Thomas. I mean, like, they went hard.
100%. Sometimes you have to just kind of tip your hat, and if the kid wants to go elsewhere, and if whatever deal that kid gets, this is the new day and age of college athletics. Like it or not, this is where we are. And if Chucky can make more money playing at Louisville, more power to him. And if that's just where we're at. I just think until they figure out a way to harness what's going on in college athletics, we're going to keep having this, guys. And we're going to see kids leave to go find the biggest payday. And as maddening as it is, which I don't love, it is the system in which we have, and you got to play by the set of standards. And if you can't, if kid A goes to school B because they get X, Y, and Z money, then that's what you're going to get. It is frustrating. It's a frustrating period, but good on the kids because they're finally getting rewarded. I mean, I don't have to tell you, DB, that the kids are finally getting compensated for the long time coming.
Yeah. Are you prepared to drink through the proverbial fire hose on Saturday?
Yeah.
I mean, like how BC said he'd asked for an hour. Like he's got
right.
He could go through a multitude of things.
Right. And this is that's and I was like, Saturday, really? I mean, we've got a laundry list. We got check. Coach Rhule, let's start with the beginning. So you got home from New York City.
Well, he could take 25 minutes alone on spring ball format, and will there be a spring game? And that's kind of down the list, right?
Future of the spring games, that's a whole other discussion. We can talk about this in the middle of the summer. Why even have spring games at this point?
Yeah, it's going to be different.
We got to reconfigure this calendar.
Yeah, but they're not going to leave that money on the table. They'll figure out a way to do something to entertain us.
I was going to say, AK, let's pump the brakes on not having a spring game. We're going to have something to talk about right here.
You know how many people go to Latrobe to watch the Steelers in spring and camp? Oh, they'll figure out something.
Like the Superstars Challenge back in the day when Mr. Cotter was racing, the Sweat Hogs, I mean, my goodness, it's going to be something. Wow. It's going to be flag football or throw the football through the hoop.
I have no idea what any of those references were, AK. It was good to talk to you, as always. We will talk to you soon.
Thanks, AK.
All right, see you guys.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DBM Ravi, Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and brought to you by our friends at Centris Federal Credit Union. Are you looking for your first home in 2025? Maybe your dream home? Maybe you're trying to refinance your current home? Check out centrisfcu.org. Their experts have you covered, and they will help guide you through the process. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of options with mortgages or refinancing. Centris can help you out. They're federally insured by NCUA, an equal housing lender, and subject. This is all subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. Check out centrisfcu.org. DB, I want to talk about money. I'd like to talk about some money.
Why?
Well,
I'm laughing because do you ever look at your trend? Do you use TweetDeck?
No, I just use regular old
I'm
X.com.
looking at my trends for @Damon Benning.
What are you trending? What's trending?
I don't know if this says more about me or what.
I don't know who else it would say something about, but go ahead.
You want the top 10?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Brett Bielema.
Okay.
Hubert Davis.
Okay.
Mark Stone.
Okay.
Tim Waltz.
Yep. I think that's a national trender.
RFK Jr.
Okay.
Tampon Tim.
Okay.
Tiffany Hayward.
Okay.
And Joy Reid.
I think it's mostly you. I think it mostly is you. Might need to scrub your search history here in a little bit.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's something. It is something for
I'm
sure.
not even like, why is Bielema trending? Just because he clapped at Harbaugh?
You love Bielema.
No, I used to.
It's your guy.
I used to.
It's your guy.
I don't dislike him like most here.
I think he's a good coach.
I used to really, really like him.
You used to ride with him?
Yeah.
I think he's a good coach.
And he's just okay. I'm like in my head, he's a good coach, but I used to be like, ooh man.
Yeah, I mean he's
I want to go watch Bielema.
He's a little prickly.
Yeah, which doesn't bother me.
You know what does bother me?
Well, you want to talk about money?
I want to talk about money.
All right, what do we got?
So your Dodgers. I'm actually here to defend them. I'm here to defend the Dodgers. Unlike you, who are upset that they spend money on too many good players.
What did you say a couple minutes ago?
So I had to call the ambulance for you.
No, after that.
Oh, I don't remember.
You doubled down when I was over there watching television away from you.
Oh, I don't remember.
Yes.
But one of your newest, you re-signed Jack Flaherty.
Uh-huh.
He had some thoughts last week about people complaining about the Dodgers, and he goes, a certain team is not ruining baseball. Because people are like, with all the deferred money, and people like you complaining about them signing too many good players. Although everybody else doesn't root for the Dodgers, so that's the weird part. But Jack Flaherty goes,
your ability to just make stuff up on the fly isn't that. Well, you use like every 7 words. It's fascinating. You should be the human AI. Let's take one sentence that DB said, and I'll come up with 5 paragraphs what this dude really said. It's not what I said, but go ahead. Carry on.
That's what it seems
My
like.
Wayward Son.
That's a good song. So he says a certain team is not ruining baseball. A lot of other teams are just doing very little. And I actually think he's right.
Do you know how many people could have signed Flaherty?
Everybody.
Everybody
could have signed him.
Yeah.
And here's why I think he's right. And here's why I'm only mad at the Dodgers, because I'm jealous of the Dodgers, because they are the only team doing anything.
Kind of how I used to feel about St. Louis.
Right?
But carry on.
So the Dodgers, you want to know something funny? I'm going to give you the Dodgers payroll.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Oh,
No, hold on. I'm going to give you Dodgers payroll.
Yeah. It's not like people think.
And I'm going to give you a number. You ready?
Yeah.
$241 million. That's their payroll.
Mm-hmm.
In the year 2014, that was their payroll. You know what it is today?
It's less than that.
$240 million.
Yeah.
It is $1 million less today than it was a decade ago.
Well aware.
They don't even lead the league in payroll. They're fifth.
They're not the highest payroll in their own division.
That's correct. They are not the highest payroll in their own division. That belongs to the Padres.
Well aware.
This is not a Dodgers problem. This is a baseball problem. And here's why it's a baseball problem, because everybody's out here crying poverty, right? I like numbers. Everybody's crying poverty. The A's, they go, we can't afford anything. Can't afford any money. You know whose payroll the Athletics could afford and still make money?
The Dodgers.
The Dodgers.
Yeah.
They made the Oakland Athletics the poorest team in baseball.
Oh.
No, they are. They're the poorest team in baseball. Their franchise is worth the least, and they made the least amount of money last year. Would have still cleared $1 million in profit had they signed the Dodgers payroll, and no one else came to their game still, which seems unlikely, right? Seems unlikely if Shohei Ohtani's playing in Oakland or Las Vegas or wherever they're going to play now, right? That no one else would come to the games. So they could have had the exact same paltry attendance, which was basically no one. No one came to those games.
I told my boy Chris Kravanek. He's a huge Rays fan.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be kind of jealous of his
their front office. Yeah, they're really, really good.
And he's like, man, nobody comes to the games, bro. I'm getting tickets for like 12. I mean, he would go like on the cheap, okay, before he moved back here. And I told him when the Dodgers hired Friedman.
Yeah.
And started kind of rating their front office staff. I'm like, that is the best non-player acquisition in baseball.
100%. Really, really well done.
Like real time.
And then you give a guy that has been able to be really good at scouting and evaluating and signing
their
guys
farm system is still
without any money.
Yeah.
And then you're like, here's a giant pile of cash. That guy's going to do pretty well, right? Like that typically is how that works. It's kind of how we feel.
I mean, does 1 year $13 million for Yates seem like crazy?
That's my point. Like, I'm not blaming the Dodgers. The rest of baseball needs to stop being run by like private equity and accountants where all they're trying to do is maximize the overall value of the franchises. Yeah. Guess what is going to go up no matter what? The value of your franchise. You know what's crazy, DB?
Do you know what Yates' bonus is if he gets the max number of appearances?
What's that?
It's $500K.
That's not a lot.
Dude, that's like 4 Dodger dogs. Which is overrated.
A little pricey.
But I'm not going to say to get sushi like I did.
For a Dodger dog. Yeah.
Yeah, $500,000.
I'm just saying. I'm sitting here. I'm looking at some franchises.
Ask Teoscar Hernandez why he left money on the table to go back to LA.
Maybe
somebody could have signed Teoscar.
They sure could have.
The Dodgers stole him.
Alex Bregman's still on the market. You know that, right?
Yeah.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to spend any money.
So
these franchises are making.
Somebody does need to sign Bregman, though.
They do. These franchises are all making at least $250 million in profit a year, and all the way up to almost $750 million if you're the Yankees. But most people are between about 250 and 500. That's where almost everybody in baseball lives.
Bless your heart. I mean, you're still Dean Blandino in spirit, but like you're vaulting. You're like getting out of that stat. Just, I mean, because if you
this is why I'm mad at the Red Sox.
Schaefer would punch me right now, but like I think these are the kind of real conversations we have to have.
This is why I'm mad at the Red Sox. You know how much revenue the Red Sox made last year?
Oh, this is a good one. Net?
Yeah.
Money made?
Profit.
They made, I'm going to go $180 million.
$500 million. $500 million. So when they come to me and they say, we can't afford to sign Mookie Betts because of the luxury tax, I want to tell them to shove it.
Yeah, but then you'd also be the guy that will turn around and whine and cry and bitch and moan that the Golden State Warriors aren't spending enough money because they owe it to Stephen Wardell Curry to be better.
No.
But what part of that was a fib?
I'm not mad that they're not spending money. I'm mad that they've spent money poorly. There's a difference.
Wardell. Is that his middle name?
That's his first name, actually.
Yeah, it is.
He's a junior. Wardell Stephen Curry. What? Maybe
and Dad they just call. I would just go by Dale too.
Yeah.
Dale Curry for 3.
Well, like my guy Willie. His full name is Wilbert Washington Williams III. He goes by Willie, and I think understandably so. And then he gave his son the name.
Oh, man.
So his son is the fourth, but he calls him Trey. I don't
That's
know how
like
that
my
works.
guy, Abe Hoskins.
Yeah.
I think there's about 64 Abes.
You gotta keep it in the line. You got to keep the line going. I'm just saying, I have very little sympathy for anyone in baseball. Literally every team in baseball could be doing what the Dodgers are doing. They're just choosing not to. Now, not every team in baseball could be doing what the Mets are doing, because the Mets do have a higher payroll than some of these teams' total revenue.
Yeah, do you remember when you practically laughed me off the stage? And let's not act like you didn't.
You're going to have to give me context.
When I was talking about Ohtani's contract. And you gave me a hard time like for 7 days in a row that I don't really like Ohtani.
You don't like Ohtani.
I don't. It's okay. It needs context.
You don't.
I'm not going to get into it.
But you're not a huge fan.
But the way that the contract was structured, I told you, it was brilliant. I'm like, anybody.
The deferred money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like anybody can do this. Man,
my point is.
But I do get Schaef's point because he came back, which was like 8 months later after the season. He's like, look, man, I mean, if Cleveland Indians told somebody, or the Guardians tried to sign somebody for deferred money, they'd laugh. Like, you do have to be an attractive franchise.
For sure. But there's a lot of attractive franchises that aren't doing anything.
Yeah.
You're telling me nobody in the world wants to live in Miami? Baseball players are the only people in the world that don't want to live in Miami. Like
I'd like no income tax.
They're the only people in professional sports that don't want to move to Miami.
Oh, 100%.
Make sure you get to supernovas.com to get tickets for Friday's match. They're back home at the CHI Health Center. It's supernovas.com for tickets. We'll be back with Mitch Sherman. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, how are you here this morning?
I am well. How are you guys?
Mitch, I'm solving all the world's problems in terms of baseball finances. So doesn't a diehard Royals fan want to hear from a diehard Dodgers fan, right? You're like chomping at the bit, right?
Yeah. Right. I'm planning to see the Dodgers at Kauffman Stadium on June 27th. Scheduled a trip there for a youth tournament, and we're going to go out of town. We don't usually do that, but Kansas City's the destination, and that's the weekend. And it just so happens that the Dodgers are at the K. So I'll be taking 12 boys and.
So where are you? What facility are you playing?
We're in. We're signed up to play in
the Frank White
in Lee Summit, which I think that's where the Frank White Field is, and it's also in Belton. So there's a couple of sites. We're not sure which one we're at yet. A little early for that. But yeah, my son, my 14-year-old informed me that we might be seeing the greatest collection of players ever on one team.
The Dodgers will also be there.
Your tryhard 50-year-old buddy, Mitch, used to play a ton of softball right down the street from where you're going to be playing. Kansas City has some amazing baseball complexes. You are going to enjoy your stay.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's the baseball that we're going to play and hopefully the baseball we're going to see. He says, again, going back to my middle schooler, he says, well, we know that we'll get to see a Cy Young candidate because the Dodgers have 5 of them.
So you want to know?
He's talking about Reagan's.
You want to know what?
I know that's what he's talking about, isn't it? The bounce
6. There's 6 on the
continued bounce back of Lugo. Like, come on now.
You want to know what your old college pal was on this morning, Mitch?
He's talking about Christopherson?
No, I'm talking about you.
Oh.
Yeah. Tell me. That makes.
Is it true? No, this is 100% true, Mitch. He's walking.
We were in college at the same time.
He's walking between breaks here, and he goes. He's bemoaning the state of his front running franchises with, North Carolina struggling with
the
Hubert
Lakers,
Davis,
the
Steelers, and then he goes, and I swear, if the Dodgers sign one more good player, I'm gonna have a hard time rooting for him. And I'm like, DB, I don't even know what you're talking about, man. That's a quote. That is a quote. He goes, I don't know if I'm going to be able to root for him if they keep signing good players. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Everybody has their limits. I think we've found it for Damon.
There's too many good players on one roster. Just can't.
This is not about me. This is about my friend Mitch. Mitch, 11 years, 288's got to look pretty good on the long end, right? You got one of the best young players in baseball. Let's defer. Let's go back to the Royals.
That's right. That's right.
Are they paying that money to him yearly, or are they waiting until like 2090 to pay that out?
Here we go.
There's like a player option after 7 years, but by that point, we're just worried about the near future for Bobby Witt.
MJ Melendez blowing up or something like that. Mitch
he changed his stance. That's the word.
Is Salvi Perez a Hall of Famer?
I think yes. Yes. Unequivocally yes. If he retires tomorrow, he's a Hall of Famer. He's proven it on the field, but he's a Hall of Famer also for his impact off the field and just what a ambassador he's been and how important he's been with the Latin players in baseball. He's like the successor to David Ortiz in that role.
And we're going to continue deflecting. And
David Ortiz also Hall of Famer.
We're going to talk about caution, case for optimism too. You had such a fantastic year. I think you finished second in the Central. Mitch, and you didn't even get much from Pasquatch, and he may have a bounce back year. The sky's the limit for you in Kansas City, Mitch. I'm here for you.
Just got done listening to a fun podcast with Jack Caglione, who we're familiar with here in Omaha. I don't know that 2025 is a realistic destination for Cags in KC, but maybe we'll see him at Werner Park.
So let me ask you this, Mitch: if the Royals had somehow, signed Juan Soto and maybe a really good player in from Japan, and maybe they're like, let's get Pete Alonso too. Maybe they just collect. Would you ever find yourself saying like, oh man, I just really wish they'd stop signing all these good players?
I can't envision that, but then I'm also nowhere near the situation. I'm nowhere near the spot of being in the Dodgers.
Can we give us some context? So, Mitch, let me ask it to you this way: would you like to see Garcia flourish at third base, or would you like to see the Royals sign Alex Bregman?
Oh man, well,
see?
If you can have them both, then great. And Garcia's so versatile; he could play anywhere. See? He can play any position on the field, so he doesn't need to flourish at third base. He can flourish anywhere.
That's not even a leading question. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
I don't think that answer helps you, but
it does help me because, he would take Bregman, but he's not cheering for it because he's got a guy there that he can cheer for. That was my point.
I don't think the situations are comparable.
Oh, what if you squint? Or kind of just kind of plug one ear, or it's not close.
They do both have some gray uniforms with some blue in them. That's a similarity.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Hey, give me that 3-game series. No matter, you can only have 9 players on the field at once, so they might have the bench. There's not any question about who's going to have the team with the better players in the dugout. But
all right, if
Royals can do their part, they can win 2 of those games.
If it's a 3-game stint and it's you're at the front of the rotation and it lines up, which it often does not. Would you go with Lugo, Reagans, and Walker, or take Lugo, Reagans, and Singer?
Singer's gone, man. But
that's right.
That's
right.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten to spring training mode yet, where I've dissected the Royals' potential starting rotation. I have no idea. I mean, I know that Reagans and Lugo are at the top, but I don't know. It's always a work in progress, and somebody emerges. So if you got 2 potential aces, then they're quite a ways ahead of the game. Where Kansas City's normally at this time of year, but they're coming off of a playoff appearance, so I'm fine if they can in any way, shape, or form work Reagans and Lugo into that series at the end of June against the Dodgers. Then I'm happy. If I get to see one of those 2 pitch, well, I'm only going to the Friday game. We'll be playing ourselves on Saturday and Sunday.
Well, best wishes. I'll be thinking of you.
What if you had 6 potential aces? That is
and 3 all-star closers.
Hey, I'm telling you, man, Yates was only $13 million. It's affordable, 1-year deal.
I'm really enjoying myself over here.
Yeah, you're an idiot. Hey, so Mitch, to more important things. And I asked this to BC, how much are you prepared to type, or how much of a window do you hope to get on Saturday when it could easily be drinking through a fire hose with what Coach Rhule could be talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I assume he's probably only going to talk for this standard 20 to 25 minutes, but since it'll have been 5 weeks since we last heard from him, he could go for an hour, I think, and keep people interested. It's February, or it will be February then, so to temper the expectations, I don't know that some of these storylines are probably just going to be advanced. Like, we're not going to continue to move them down the tracks. Like, we're not going to get answers, the kind of answers that we're not going to resolve every potential question. But there's a lot of potential questions just because of all that's happened in Nebraska football in this young offseason already, and the fact that it's been a while since we've got to hear from the head coach.
Mitch, as you kind of think about all that's happened since the last time we talked to Rhule or heard from Rhule, like, what are a couple of the things, don't want to give away your questions here that you might ask, but what are a couple of the things that you're most interested to pick Rhule's brain about?
Yeah, so I wrote about this on The Athletic this week, like this exact topic, and let me think. I want to know the status of special teams, and more than just, hey, are you ready to announce a coordinator? I mean, he'll do that when he's ready, and because we haven't heard what he plans to do with the coaching spot there, then he probably doesn't quite yet have an answer, or at least an answer that he's ready to give to the public. I just want to know more about, like, how does he envision this overhaul of special teams that he talked about after the Pinstripe Bowl? Like, what's it going to? Okay, so you got a punter, a long snapper, and a return specialist out of the portal. You're changing the way that it's going to be coached, or who's going to coach it. How is it going to change as far as just like the day-to-day with special teams, the way that it's handled in practice, before practice, in game planning? I'm curious about that. I'm curious about spring and what the format of the spring is going to look like this year, and what they're kicking around for an into the spring. Is it going to be a spring game? We'll see. The Rhule's thoughts on the future of spring football, that's all kind of in one. And then the roster, it'll continue to be a topic until August. It'll forever be a topic, but this year it's more dramatic, and there's going to be more upheaval than in a year in the future, because you're in the progress of trying to get from 150 players to 105.
Don't you think, though, Mitch, you're only going to have to really parse through this one good hard time? Because this will be the biggest the numbers are, furthest from 105 going forward.
Yeah, it's not going to be anything like this in 2026 and 2027. But I think you're still going to want to be in a spot every year early in the offseason where you have options. And there's still going to be players who leave in a normal year after the spring and into the summer. What you don't want to do is be right at 105. Going into the spring, and when you count your freshmen who aren't yet there, you want to be over, because things happen. And I don't know yet exactly how injured players are going to factor. My expectation right now is you're just on the 105, whether you're injured or healthy or whatever. So that's maybe not as much of an issue as it could be, but you're going to have players unexpectedly leave, and when they realize that they're not in line for the kind of playing time they were hoping to be coming out of spring, or whatever spring is, whether it's just off-season practice or OTAs or something that you do in a different time of the off-season. So you're always going to have like some things to parse through, but I'm totally with you. It's not going to be anything like 2025.
It wasn't that long ago. It was the first or second Saturday in October. We're just chewing the fat before a game, and Lincoln, and we're talking about, man, it'd be nice to get some real clarity on the 105, and they got to say some things in a hurry, and the longer they wait, the more condensed it's going to be. And you were kind of joking at it. This might be a thing, though, because, you were like, I mean, you're going to have to do some, or would you do some sort of taxi squad, or is it going to be hard-lined, or what are you going to do with injuries? And you're just spitballing all these hypotheticals. And the interesting thing is, Mitch, how many times do you think it will change before it's something that they will actually hold schools accountable for? How many more times do you think they will tweak this number in some variation before they settle on it?
Well, until you have an idea of what it's going to look like the first time around, it's hard to know how flawed it is, and then to be able to get a sense of how many times it's going to have to change to get it right. Just going off past history and the way that these things work, there's going to be problems. There's going to be unforeseen consequences, or maybe they're foreseen consequences, but the people who are making the rules aren't seeing them. So yeah, I would think that there'll be adjustments to how the 105 is managed and handled at the top level, like from the rule setting level, several times before they settle on something. And it may just continue to be an evolving process. Like there might be a whole cluster of changes up front after a couple of years or 1 year, and then some more tweaks in the second or third year. And then you kind of have to mess with it periodically because of the changing forces in college football. Like we don't know what the sport's going to look like 5 years, 10 years down the road. And I'm sure you're going to have to adjust the way that rosters are handled in the future because of things that happen with the game and the sport.
Mitch, I found myself wondering a lot, and this is, I guess, sort of a procedural semantics question, but I find myself wondering how much of the ambiguity or sort of blind spots it seems like are going to be left here are a product of the powers that be not seeing potential pitfalls, or just saying, hey, let's roll this thing out and figure it out from there. Like, let's just start and then we can patch the potholes when they pop up.
Well, it's hard to know what kind of stuff's going to happen. And this is not it's a hairy issue. It's not as complex probably as, say, NIL or revenue sharing or the transfer portal. And you see how much that stuff has had to change and continues to need adjustments. Like they had, nobody could have envisioned. Yeah, I think, if you were to talk to like experts in this field when NIL first became a thing, I think they would have thrown all kinds of theories at you about the way it was going to go and what was going to happen, what it would look like 5 years down the road. And I'm sure on some things they hit the nail on the head and they were right, about soaring dollar figures, things like that. But there's just been so much. It's gone in so many different directions, and there have been loopholes that are found. And so that's going to happen, with every big issue in college sports. The roster limits are included in that conversation. They're part of it. But I don't think it's as unwieldy as like NIL or, what we're walking into with revenue sharing. Those things are all going to have to just continue to be monitored, more closely. Like they should be able to hit the roster thing. It should not be that difficult. And I don't think the answer is just a hard 105 with no wiggle room in any direction. Like that's going to create some problems. I think there has to be a little flexibility. I think there has to be something like, and maybe it won't be a taxi squad, but something at least like an injured reserve where, you don't want to have to cut a guy because he tore his ACL. Like that's just, there's something wrong there.
On the heels of baseball season getting ready to start, I think Will Bolt's like looking over at the football team. He's like, hold my Gatorade, right? I mean, This is kind of what these
they
guys...
can serve beer at Haymarket now.
Touche. Touchy.
Where it's like, they have big numbers, and it's extremely competitive, and you spend time whittling it down and getting to where you need to be on basically opening day. There's a little bit of a blueprint there with the survival of the fittest mentality already right down the street in Lincoln.
Yeah.
I mean, it's college baseball, right? I mean, this is kind of how the sport is ran.
Yeah. We're used to talking about this stuff in football terms, and in football terms, like, I think, I don't know, it's like 105 seems kind of like it's like a thing that's hard for a football team. And then I look at a college baseball team and I go, well, 34, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm not that, I'm I was in Will Bolt's shoes, it would be different. And I recognize like they can be at 40 this year. It's 34 next year. They had to cut some players after the fall to get to 40. I don't know. I think you can play. I think you can play baseball with 34 players. You can certainly play baseball with 40 players on your team. It's again, much like with football, it's actually getting there and having to tell. It's not just about numbers, it's about people, and having to tell people and like shatter the dreams of people who you offered scholarships to or offered spots on the roster to, a year ago or 2 years ago, and say, okay, well, now the rules have changed and there's not room for you anymore. So those are really hard conversations. But once they get to that place, especially with the scholarship limit being taken away, no longer do you have to fit a roster within 11.7 scholarships. I think it'll be okay. Like, I think baseball is going to come out of this okay. Many schools are not, in Nebraska included, all schools are going to have some kind of a scholarship limit that's below 34. You're not going to have 34 full scholarships in baseball. I mean, maybe LSU will, but it's going to be a lot more manageable than trying to do it with 11.7.
Mitch, I was going to say, I think you touched on something important there that we haven't really been saying out loud, but I think is more the issue that we're talking about with the 105 than maybe we're verbalizing. And it's really not about the mechanics of the roster. It's the thing we don't like is the human cost, right? We don't like the fact that be a kid that thought he was going to play for Nebraska that maybe has to go to an FCS school or someplace that isn't Nebraska. And we just don't like that. Like, is that okay just to say out loud and be like, hey, that's why we don't like this? And then next year we probably won't care because those conversations will have been done?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. I also think there's a part of it when it comes to how you build your roster and where you build it from. It undeniably is going to change the way, and has already changed the way, that Nebraska football is able to approach bringing in players from the state of Nebraska. And forever that has been the fabric, or a big piece of the fabric of the program. The foundation of the program has been finding players who grew up on Nebraska football and had this dream to do it and were motivated by that on a regular basis in their quest to become good high school players. And it's been customary for a lot of those players, or the upper crust of those players, to be able to continue their dream and play at Nebraska. And that's just not going to be the case for many of them now. When it was the standard, the line in the sand and where you had to be to wear that uniform in Lincoln has changed in potentially it's changed in a dramatic way. You can see it in the way that Nebraska is approaching scholarship offers with the next couple of classes of in-state players. And of course, it's even a bigger factor when you fill out the bottom portions of the roster with walk-on players. There are going to be very few of them. And where did those guys come from? They came from Nebraska high schools, from all over the state. And that's going to be a part of the program that's just forever changed.
Mitch, let me get you out here on this. It just kind of maybe something to talk about in the future with like kind of, we've heard about it with like Sue's relationship with Nebraska, or David, or Roger Craig when he left Nebraska, and Coach Solich when he left Nebraska. Pretty soon, are we going to add Jordan Larson as the female perspective, kind of the human interest story, and her as much success as she's had in kind of her relationship with the university? It's very, very interesting if you kind of peel back the layers on the relationship that such a great player has had in the lore of Nebraska history.
Yeah, I mean, her story by itself, like without the recent the 2 years that she spent on John Cook's staff, and now going back to pro volleyball in what, her late 30s, and stepping away from coaching. Just you said the human interest, the human side of Jordan Larson's story is one that I think Nebraska fans should know, need to know. Like, go read the story that Aishwarya Kumar wrote on ESPN on ESPN.com last year about Jordan and like some of her personal struggles and just what it's like to be from a small town in Nebraska and be a world-class athlete and then be a 4-time Olympian. And, it's, I could take a half hour. I can't tell the story. Like go find it and read it. It's incredible. But yeah, I mean, she's like the Dave Remington or the Eric Crouch, Johnny Rogers, like all rolled into one for Nebraska women's athletics.
Yeah. That's Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, great stuff as always. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mitch.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're live here on the Pillar Exterior stage. DB.
I mean, this relationship is tumultuous at best.
What's up, buddy?
Good morning.
Oh, don't try. No. What's up, buddy?
I'm going to give you a minute. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Make sure you get out to the casinos in Lincoln or in Omaha and place those sports bets, straight bets, parlays.
I smell bets.
They got you covered. Check out warhorse.casino.com for promos and a full list of house rules. DB.
Yes.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, I'm going back. See, yeah, it's fine.
What's fine?
I'm like Teflon, baby.
Teflon Don?
Nah, my man Flaky Jake, who, by the way, beautiful segment for him because he's like the next closest degenerate I know. But he's like on me about this deferred money and the payroll, and I'm like Chiefs fans coming at me about Dodgers and deferred money is laughable. It is absolute. Like, has anybody not looked at the Mahomes contract?
Here's the difference, though.
No. Let me just hang on.
All right.
How Veach has fleeced the salary cap for like. Chris Jones is still a Chief. 4 years ago, oh my God, they can't bring back. Oh my, how are they gonna and every year, Veach finds a way to finagle the numbers. I'm just saying, as a Dodgers, listen, Friedman, go be the Veach of Major League Baseball. That's all.
He already is. That's what he's doing.
It's just rich that Chiefs fans would have even the inkling to say anything about deferred monies.
Here's why it bothers people in baseball.
Because they're disingenuous.
Well, because it's not typically how people operate.
And you're a craphead.
No, that's rude. You're so mean to me today.
That's my big boy. Big boy cuss word.
What did I do today? I'm being so nice to you.
Right.
Good morning again.
And by the way, I
defended the Dodgers in the last segment.
Well, you know what?
About their salary cap and how everybody else should be spending. That was me defending your team.
So let's say I call Happer. I'm like, Happer, hey.
Yeah.
Bregman's on the open market.
Yep.
But you really like Garcia's like his potential. You're not gonna say no, don't sign Bregman, but you don't need to.
No, but you do.
So what's wrong with that? Why do they? Why?
Because they need to get better players.
Garcia could be that guy.
Okay.
So what if he wants to cheer for Garcia in-house?
Go be that guy somewhere else. Like
would you call him a whiner?
Mookie Betts.
Would you call him a whiner?
If he had 18 All-Stars, just won a World Series, and his over-under win total was 104.5.
Let's not act like a year ago we were calling them like the greatest underachievers ever or the best regular season champs. Or we asterisked the COVID title because it was the Rays.
What year is it?
It is the year our Lord.
Are they just coming off a World Series? Did they sign even more good players?
I know it sounds
so
like.
What's true a year ago is not what's true today.
Oh, you of all people try to understand fluid.
It's super smooth. Like just silky. What?
Huh?
What? Here's the thing. Here's the difference is the Royals need more good players. So they'll find a place for Garcia. They'll find a different place for Garcia. Like Mookie Betts came up as a middle infielder. That was blocked at the time. So they moved him. They moved him to the outfield, right? If you're a good player and you're in the minors, they figure something else out.
Yeah.
So you're not going to say, no, I don't want good players. You're going to sign Alex Bregman. If you think Alex Bregman makes
and route to a championship, piecemealing a third and fourth starter, throughout the playoffs with the vaunted Padres when everybody picked the Padres.
Yeah.
And your boy Mookie Betts is playing 4 different positions: second base, shortstop,
Really
center
good.
field, right field.
Really good.
Like they're not patchworking stuff, and it's like, oh, the plucky Dodgers. It's like,
So here's the thing.
No.
Here's the thing.
Brave Eye?
Here's the thing.
What do you want?
You can have the giant payroll and all the good players and whatever, and that's fine. I defended it. I said more teams should go sign good players. You don't also get to be like, and they had to piecemeal this and that.
They did.
Doesn't matter. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I don't care.
We took the guy we gave you dirt cheap and brought him back, and he was clutch for us. Kike Hernandez.
Oh, I love Kike. They should have re-signed Kike. That was like the one guy that they got from the Dodgers that was any good. Really don't care about Alex Verdugo.
Let's not act like they don't. They're not well
Jeter
run.
Downs. No, they are super well run. But like, I'm not complaining about the money. I'm saying everybody else should spend money. I'm Team Jack Flaherty here. Everybody else spend the money. You have it.
And Flaherty, how many teams brought him in but didn't want to roll the dice?
I don't know how many coaches have the Saints brought in, and they don't want to roll the dice. The coaches don't want to roll the dice.
I am concerned about my man Severe.
Oh, he's not. He might not make it.
I am concerned that is his ride or die.
That's like his.
Yeah,
that's the team he cares about the most, right?
Now McCarthy's sitting out, and
McCarthy doesn't want it. Kingsbury doesn't even want it.
I don't even know why Cliff said that. What? Why did Cliff wait till yesterday?
Guys, I want to make an announcement. DB, are you ready?
With only one potential opening left,
DB, I want to make an announcement.
I want to go. I'm happy with Lionel Richie and the Commodores.
This is some.
How are the older guys going to take it?
This is some breaking news, DB.
Well, dun, 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 dun.
I would like to remove myself from consideration for the New Orleans Saints job. I'm not going to take it. I'm going to sit out this coaching cycle, and we'll try again next year for my NFL. That's what I felt like Kingsbury. Maybe he was a real candidate, but it kind of felt like he was just like, oh yeah, I don't want it either.
It's awful late, isn't it?
It's late in the process. They're going to hire a coach at some point, right?
I hope so.
Who are you going to hire when you fire Hubert Davis? That's the $1 million question.
Again, I just don't anoint it to Wes.
Like they anointed it to Hubert?
Yes, Humberto.
That bothered me a lot. So there's two things that bothered me about it. One,
speaking of which, how was that the only one that I got right and bet on it?
Yeah, I don't know. I tried to warn you about Georgetown.
Oh, my
God.
God.
I tried to warn you.
So, did you see the number just keep inflating as Tip got closer?
Yeah.
It just got to 5.5. I was like, oh, God, everybody. Was Notre Dame selling or Georgetown selling? Holy cow, this thing is getting steamed.
I tried to warn you. I was like, I don't know.
Was that you or was that Maddie? I was like, when I said 5, I thought it said they were getting 25.
Yeah, I think you said that.
It's 20. They're getting 25.
I think Maddie said that. Would they still have covered at 25?
No, that was Jacob. Jacob had jokes.
No,
aren't they maddening to watch?
Yeah, I try not to very much.
Yeah, they're
horrible to
again,
watch.
I did say I was premature. Way premature. And I said that to Maddie like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you said it early.
I'm like, yeah, I think I jumped the gun.
Basically, as soon as we got more than a handful of games in a Big East play, you're like, it might have been early.
How many times is Providence going to beat Providence has beaten Georgetown 8 straight, and Cooley has yet. Well, and he hasn't been there long enough because those all 8 aren't of those on his deal.
There should be 4 of those on him.
Yeah, can't beat them.
It's not good.
It's good to see Providence get over 500 though last night.
Good for who? What do I care?
You want the Big East to be, again, you want the bottom to not be so bottomy.
I mean, I want it not to be terrible, but like 10-11 versus 11-10 doesn't do a lot for me. You know?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I know you love the coaching prowess at the bottom of the Big East.
It's not really moving the needle for me.
Well, I smell bad.
I don't like. Is Chris Holtman a bad coach?
No, I think he's a good coach.
I thought he might be too, but it's rough out there.
It's hard to win.
DePaul's a hard job.
You're such a hater.
DePaul's a hard job.
I'm surprised you didn't shoot me down when I said Max should be up for Coach of the Year with Kerry James.
No, I'm not going to shoot you down. I'm the guy that a month ago said they sucked, and now they don't all of a sudden. Like that, who else does that fall on? Right? Like, I mean, I can't both. If I believed they were bad a month ago or bad for them on a curve, and they're obviously not bad now, the roster's the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you know I think North Carolina should hire? I think they should hire Coach Mack. God, you know how happy I'd be.
He'd probably take that job. I mean, he'd probably take that job.
I would be ticked. Do they have enough good golf? Yeah, they got good golf courses.
Yeah, they've got good golf in North Carolina. They've got better golf in North Carolina than they have in Omaha. Like, no disparaging the courses in Omaha, but
I'm pretty sure he can go and play and go where he wants to. So it doesn't have to be specific.
Seasonally, you know. But I mean, like South Carolina, you got Myrtle Beach. Like, not Myrtle Beach. What's the? Yeah, is it Myrtle? Yeah, it's Myrtle Beach in South Carolina.
Yeah.
I
remember my buddy. I need to hear from him. Shane, we need to put out an APB for my man Greg in Myrtle Beach.
Oh yeah,
he was the GOAT.
He's turned down some good jobs, whether it's Ohio State or Notre
Greg
Dame.
in Myrtle Beach?
No, Mac.
My man DB.
Greg in Omaha. Mac has turned down some good jobs. I don't know if he's turning down North Carolina.
You're not betting on that?
Not betting that he would turn down North Carolina. You have any games today?
Yeah, I'm going back to the well.
Uh-oh.
How about that?
What's that? What do we got?
Rutgers.
The Gers.
Rutgers.
What do we got?
Getting 7.
All right. Rutgers plus 7.
Lock it up.
Lock it up. Lock it in.
Yes.
Let me begin. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla.
You're doing too much.
That's Bet On It, brought to you by War Horse Sportsbook.
Go Scarlet Knights.
At some point, I'm going to try him to get a bet on who his next coach at North Carolina is going to be.
Knock it off.
And who he's going to be mad about the Dodgers signing next. We got Russell Baxter here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Russell Baxter, the football guru and covers the NFL for Fansided. What's going on, Russell?
Oh, I don't know. NBA Finals?
We did start off the show at 7 this morning with an NBA hot take. My partner was crying that Curry deserves better at Golden State. So that totally set the tone for the show with ridiculous antics, Russell. So you're going to
he deserves better. I don't know, because of the way things are going right now, you mean?
Yeah, they completely have wasted the back end of his prime by trying to build this second young core with like Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody and James Wiseman and Jordan Poole. And turns out all those guys are terrible, but at one point they had nice trade value that they could have gotten a nice piece for. That's all. That's all I mean. That's all I mean.
Hey, I get it. Maybe they can get Mahomes next offseason.
Hey, man, there's not much he can't do. But so, Russell, is this thing's kind of shaping out, though? Because and we're guilty of it. You know, I've talked about, everybody's talked about the franchise and how well run it is and how the 53rd player makes the same plays as, the top 2 players and their preparation. We've covered the gamut of how good and well run the Chiefs are. What will that say in a game like this where I clearly think I don't know if I'm going to pick the Eagles, but obviously Vegas thinks it's a toss-up. Like, what happens if Philadelphia wins? This is the same team, Russell, where we tried to fire their head coach every week after their first 6 or 7 wins.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? People want to fire a head coach who's 4 for 4 getting into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And is now joined a somewhat short list of making 2 Super Bowl appearances, okay, as a head coach. And now Jalen Hurts, a somewhat short list. There's like 20-plus guys who have been starting quarterbacks for at least 2 Super Bowls, okay? Of course, Mahomes will be 5, okay, which is tied with Elway for second place. And, of course, Tom Brady, I think, has 73. So, yeah, it's funny. But to a degree, I understand because of what happened last year, the meltdown that occurred late in the season. And it was bad and was mostly on the defensive side of the ball. This was a team that was, by season's end, 31st in the league against the pass. 31st. This year, they're first, by the way. And if you watch them against Tampa Bay in the playoffs last year, it was kind of reminiscent of the Steelers against Baltimore in the playoffs this year. Lifeless, just helpless. And even the last game of the regular season, they lost to the Giants, who were horrible last year. So it's funny how things can turn very quickly in this league. We saw it with Washington this year. It went from a 4-win team to a 14-win team, including the playoffs, and they're in the NFC title game. But yes, we're quick to slap on, fire the coach, greatest of all time, dynasty this, dynasty that, and so on. It's that instant gratification. And then you sit back and you wait and so on. Now, that's not to diminish anything the Chiefs have done. 5 Super Bowl appearances in 6 years is, unheard of. But here's the funny thing about that. So some people want to annoy if they win 3 straight Super Bowls, which of course has never been done, but it's been done in terms of NFL titles, which would be the Packers from 65 to 67. And then the Packers from 29 to 31. I was not alive then. But that was before there was a postseason. They awarded championships based on winning percentage. Okay? But isn't it interesting to notice, like, think about some of the other major sports, hockey, basketball, baseball. The longest championship streak in the history of the National Football League is 3 in a row. And this league has been around for over 100 years. Don't you find that intriguing?
Yeah.
And that's pre-free agency, and that's during free agency. It just shows you how hard it is to do. But again, I guess the point I really wanted to make is there are people out there who have already declared this the greatest team of all time, and they just bookended a team that was in the playoffs for almost 2 decades and won 6 Super Bowl titles. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe next year Carolina wins the Super Bowl. They reel off a couple in a row, and they'll be the greatest team of all time.
So, Russell, if I just go back to recent history and what has given Mahomes fits, it's what would give any quarterback fits. It's a front four that can get after him, similar to what Tampa Bay did. You got to think, man, if there's a recipe or a blueprint out there, it's not handing the ball to big play guy Saquon. That's not a clock killer. It would be Philadelphia's front four, right? Pretty good getting after the QB, and that back end is good. Is that where this thing is going to be won or lost?
Well, I mean, the trenches always decide. And here's what you got to think about Philadelphia. By the way, Philadelphia's in their 3rd Super Bowl in 8 years, okay? But they have a different kind of common denominator. They've done this with 2 head coaches and 2 different starting quarterbacks. Of course, it was Nick Foles who was filling in for Carson Wentz back in Super Bowl 52, and now Hurts these 2 of the last 3 years. The difference, there's a similarity with the Chiefs, but a big difference. The common denominator for the Eagles guys is the general manager, Howie Roseman. And one of the things he has always stressed, and he's made some great deals. He traded for A.J. Brown. One year he traded for DeAndre Swift. Then he got, Barkley in free agency this year. Always the trenches. And remember Jim Schwartz, the year they won the Super Bowl over New England, Jim Schwartz's defensive line was good and deep. And Brady threw for 505 yards in that Super Bowl, remember?
Yeah.
But there was one instance where that paid off. And late in that game, Brandon Graham around the corner strips Brady. The only turnover by the Patriots all afternoon. Derek Barnett picks up the screw. They get an insurance field goal, and they win 41-33. I wonder if we don't see something like this again, the depth of the defensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles. And by the way, Brandon Graham's still there, and they've changed some pieces. I think what's remarkable about Philadelphia is they're just, off of what happened last season and the retirement of 2 key cogs in the middle of their line, Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey. Yeah. And here they are back again.
Russell, so I know that we kind of have tried to bury the Eagles for the last 2 years kind of with Sirianni. Is that just a thing that we overblew? Did they patch things up, or was that never really there in the first place? Because it did seem like there was real tension in that locker room between Sirianni and Hurts and some of the other pieces involved there. Like, what do we make of that? Does that still exist and they've just been good enough to overcome it, or what do you do with that?
I think that, and again, this is totally from the outside, okay? But just some observations and I can only make observations based on what written and heard and seen and so on. And it's funny I use the word heard, okay? Because I know Nick Sirianni was vilified, for lack of a better word, by one particular national talk show hostess just for his opening press conference. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I mean, are you kidding me? That's your idea of breaking down a head coach? I mean, I know it's not as sophisticated as a quarterback that wears his hat on backwards, but I digress. Nick Sirianni is one of those personalities, okay? And we have seen those kind of personalities in the league. Is it any more blunt than Sean Payton was with Russell Wilson last year?
Mm.
Any more blunt than Jerry Glanville used to be? Any more blunt than Jim Harbaugh, Mike Ditka? But you see, now we hear about all these interactions that we didn't hear about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, and Sirianni's he's had some of his on the sidelines, whatever, back and forth with Zach Ertz a couple of weeks ago. That seems like it's water under the bridge. So much of what we now try to form our opinions on is like front and center. Okay, be it press conferences, be it, the NFL is so visible. Okay. And of course, meanwhile, while all this is going on, we're trying to figure out this massive conspiracy theory as to why the Chiefs keep on getting into the Super Bowl.
But let me ask you something. If you're talking about winning, and God bless the Saints, I hope they get their guy, whomever that may be, as a head coach. But we are looking at all the new young phenoms and Glenn and these weird press conferences with Cohen and Ben Johnson and being comfortable, uncomfortable, and Aaron Glenn saying he just texted Rodgers. Could I make the case that quietly the Raiders had the best offseason hire with Carroll, or you're still in wait-and-see mode with a guy that's been removed from the game for a little bit?
Well, he wasn't removed that long.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's remember Pete Carroll's NFL career. Okay. Which began 30 years ago. Remember, he was the head coach of the New York
Jets
for one season. And he was the victim of one of the games he was the victim of was Dan Marino's fake spike and the touchdown pass to Mark Ingram. And he was one and done. And what was one of the most memorable things you saw about Pete Carroll on the sidelines? Putting his hands around his throat for the choke symbol when somebody missed the field goal.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He came back 94. Then he went to the Patriots in 97. Okay. 3 years there. Couple playoff appearances. Went to USC. And then pops back into the NFL. Takes a team to back-to-back Super Bowls. His passion is unquestioned. Okay. He still looks like he's about 35 years old, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is probably, in terms of credibility-wise, their best hire as a head coach in a while.
Completely agree.
Okay. Some people, Josh McDaniels. Okay. Well, we saw what Josh did during his stint elsewhere. And, of course, there was the one stint which he changed his mind on, which had to leave some doubts about his head coaching. At offensive coordinator, he's back with the Patriots. I'm sure he'll be fine there and so on. But, yeah, I think you could make a very strong case for that because he brings a proven track record. Think about this. What is so much different than Pete Carroll returning to the NFL than Sean Payton after a year of retirement, and then Jim Harbaugh, who's back in the NFL for 10 years. Obviously Jim struggled last year with that 11-6 record and a playoff appearance, even though their defense kind of went belly up in the second half of the season. If you can coach, you can coach. And, I think the Raiders have gone, I kid about this all the time. They've gone through more head coaches the last 20-something years than I've gone through potato chips. But let's also put in perspective how bad this franchise has been. Their last playoff win was the AFC Championship game in 2002 against the Titans. Their last Super Bowl was 41 years ago.
That's our guy.
41 years ago. And we talk about the Cowboys not getting back to the NFC Championship game in almost 3 decades. Okay, but we think about the Raiders. Hell, the Dolphins haven't been back to a Super Bowl, haven't won a Super Bowl in 51 years. Some of these blue blood franchises that will always be in the hearts of a lot of fans and media and stuff like that, and understandably so, some of them have hit some long championship droughts. It's been 30 years since the 49ers won a Super Bowl. They've lost their last 3 Super Bowls.
That's our guy, Russell Baxter. Russell, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Russ.
You got it.
We'll be back more Hurrdat Sports Radio tomorrow.